Whatever you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
We'll be there.
This is GB News.
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true, you're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said Storm. You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
something practical could be done.
I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very good afternoon to you and a happy Friday. It's 3 p.m, only 2 more sleeps to go. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News. We're broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster, all across the UK. After calling Zelensky Putin and Kamala Harris Trump, Joe Biden fluffed the biggest night of his life. And now Biden's allies, including Barack Obama, George Clooney and 18 Democrat congressmen, are calling for Joe to go. Next up, thousands of prisoners will be released early today as the government tries to stop what it says will be the collapse of the prison system. Labour claim it will ease overcrowding, but could it put the public in grave danger? A security guard has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 16 years after hatching depraved and vile plans to kidnap, rape and murder TV star Holly Willoughby. We'll be live from Chelmsford Crown Court with all the latest. And there's only 2 more sleeps to go before England take on Spain at the Euro final in Berlin. After 58 long years of torture and misery, can Gareth Southgate's 3 Lions finally bring it home? That's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. So only 2 more sleeps to go until Berlin. We started terribly. We started slowly. Last-minute miracles, lastminute.com. And now we're within grasping distance of making history. Can we do it? Or will we fold once again? Let me know your thoughts. Plus, did you see Joe Biden last night? Absolute calamity. Are the people that have supported him for so long, have they just been enabling the abuse of their man? Surely he should have been withdrawn a long, long time ago from the US president. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so. But before all of that, it's your headlines with Sophia Wenzel.
Martin, thank you. Good afternoon. The top story from the newsroom at 3 o'clock. A man who plotted to kidnap, rape and murder TV presenter Holly Willoughby has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 15 years behind bars. 37-year-old security guard Gavin Plum was arrested and charged after he disclosed his plans online to an undercover police officer in the US. During his sentencing, the judge, Mr. Justice Edward Murray, praised the courage of Holly Willoughby and said no woman should be made to feel unsafe. DCI Greg Wood spoke a short while ago outside the court.
Planned this attack on Miss Willoughby over a 2-year period, scoping her movements, seeking help from others and buying items that would incapacitate and inflict violence. He is not a fantasist. He's a calculating sexual predator who has spent his adult life seeking to inflict violence on women.
In the last half hour, the new Justice Secretary has confirmed urgent measures to tackle what she's called the overcrowding crisis in prisons. On a visit to Five Wells Prison, Shabana Mahmood's warned that overflowing jails could lead to chaos in the criminal justice system, with police unable to detain criminals and courts forced to delay trials. The early release scheme will mean some inmates will be freed after serving just 40% of their sentence. It comes after Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said the shocking crisis is worse than he first feared. But former Justice Minister Sir Robert Buckland says Labour can't just blame the previous government. A 26-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of the murders of 3 women in Hertfordshire. 61-year-old Carol Hunt and her 2 daughters, 25-year-old Louise and Hannah, who's 28, were attacked at their home in Bushey. Hertfordshire police say the main suspect has been treated for injuries in hospital since then, but was only arrested today. He remains in a serious condition. The Home Secretary has described the deaths of 4 migrants in the English Channel as truly awful. Yvette Cooper's comments came as the migrants drowned after their boat capsized. The French Coast Guard says more than 60 people were reported to be on the boat off the northern coast near Boulogne. Latest Home Office figures show 419 people made the journey across the Channel from France to the UK in 6 boats on Tuesday. It suggests an average of around 70 people per boat, taking the provisional total for 2024 to just over 14,000. In the US, President Joe Biden has vowed to fight on despite 2 major gaffes at the NATO summit and a growing number of Democrats calling for him to stand aside. Speaking at the summit in Washington last night, he mistakenly referred to Ukrainian president as President Putin before correcting himself.
Ukraine will prevail in this war, and we'll stand with them every single step of the way. That's what the compact says, loudly and clearly. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it.
And speaking just a short while later, while taking questions from journalists, Joe Biden also mixed up the names of Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Processions are taking place across Northern Ireland and other parts of the UK to mark the anniversary of the Battle of the Boyne. Tens of thousands of loyal order members and 600 marching bands are taking to the streets for the annual 12th of July festivities. The largest Orange Order parades are underway in Belfast, as well as County Antrim coastal area town of Carrickfergus. Princess Anne's carrying out her first public engagement since suffering concussion in a horse-related accident. Her visit to the riding for the Disabled Association in Gloucestershire is the start of a phased return to duties. The 73-year-old spent 5 nights in hospital at the end of June. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophia Wensler, more in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia. Now we start today's show with the prisons crisis, and thousands of offenders are set to be released early from today. And GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White is outside HMP Wormwood Scrubs in West London. Mark, welcome to the show. So we're expecting a speech imminently from... you there, Mark? Hi, Mark. We're expecting a speech imminently. Today is the day. This moment has been in the pipeline, of course. We've been warned, barely 700 spaces left, 99% capacity since the start of 2023. And today, Mark White, is the day where those early releases start happening. Tell us more.
Well, Shabana Mahmood, in her speech at Five Wells prison in Northamptonshire, which is a new privately run prison, will be painting a very stark picture. She's going to talk about the imminent collapse of the prison system, not just the prison system, but the criminal justice system. She's talking about a situation that if they didn't take this urgent action, you would have no capacity left in the prison estates, and that would mean that judges would no longer be able to sentence, that trials would have to be halted. You would have police stations and their cells acting as overflow prisons, with police officers being called back off the streets to deal with those prisoners in these overflow prisons. You would have a breakdown, she says, of law and order. She even speaks about violence and rioting on the street. So a very stark picture that she is painting as she clearly wants to justify this radical step that the new Labour government is about to embark on, which is a reduction in the time that someone will have to serve if they're on a determinate sentence of 4 years or less. Now, the government is at pains to point out that this will not include violent offenders serving sentences of more than 4 years, and it will not include those who've been convicted of either sexual offences or offences relating to domestic violence or coercive behaviour and that sort of thing. But still, there's going to be a lot of concern about the potential for at least 5,000. Indeed, the Prison Governors Association has estimated it could be between 8,000 and 10,000 prisoners who will be released early that will be eligible under this scheme. And a lot of these people, Martin, are what we call the recidivists, the repeat offenders, those often struggling with drug or alcohol abuse, who need to feed their habits, who are sent to prison for short periods of time. They return back on the streets again, and the first thing they do is burgle houses, steal cars, shoplift, the kind of crimes that blight whole communities. So there will be an inevitable impact on communities right across the country, despite the government trying to reassure people that the most violent offenders and sexual offenders will not be allowed back on the streets.
And Mark, you raise an excellent point there. The lesser of two evils is a scenario that we're being given. There's talk here of van loads of dangerous people circling the country with nowhere to go unless we release these lesser criminals. But as you just said, Mark, 4-year sentences can involve fairly hefty drug convictions, people with habits to feed, people who may well go out and start offending again. And Mark, they're precisely the kinds of criminals, precisely the kind of repeat criminals that end up blighting communities. In fact, Mark, we have to leave it there because we have to go over to the press conference. Ollie Watkins, the England striker, is speaking now in Berlin.
Just a reminder, we'll have an embargo section at the end as well for 10:30. Alex.
Ollie, congratulations for the goal the other night. How's it been coming down, the emotions after something that dramatic?
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable feeling, to be honest. One that I was taken back by the goal, but also I wasn't shocked that I did that, really, because I have full belief in myself. I knew when I was going onto the pitch that I was going to score. You know, I manifested it. I had worked very hard to get to that point. So it's been an amazing feeling, but I'm not shocked.
That was kind of my next question. After doing something like that, you said you manifested it, but does it give you even more belief heading into the final you could have a similar impact?
Yeah, definitely. I've got that fire in my belly, ready whenever I'm called upon, and hopefully I get the call to come onto the pitch again, and then hopefully I can produce.
You celebrated with the subs because you said you know yourself how difficult it is when you're not playing, when you're used to having regular game time. Did any of them say anything to you about how much it meant to them that you ran towards them?
Not really, but Dean Henderson said he thinks that's the best moment of his career, and he didn't even score the goal, which was nice. But you know, we've been working so hard day in, day out. A lot of people don't see that, but you know, across the season we're here on merit because everyone's had a good season with their clubs, and we're regular starters, the players that haven't been playing. So it definitely is hard to adapt, and when you're not playing, you know. But training every day and them intense sessions, especially after winning and getting back late from games, you're up again early in the morning and back to the grind. And the boys that even haven't played a minute have had such a big part to play, you know, pushing the starters every day in training and, you know, being true professionals. So, you know, everyone's together, and I think it's brought the group so much closer.
Ollie, hi. Good luck Sunday. You're probably aware of tonight's fixture, Exeter City at Weston-super-Mare. Are the stars aligning?
I do keep track, but I didn't realise that. I didn't know that question was going to come out of your mouth then. I was a bit surprised, thinking, is there a catch here with a fixture? No, but I can remember playing a pre-season friendly against Weston-super-Mare when I was at Exeter back in years and years ago, I think when I was 18. So, yeah, good memories, and, yeah, good luck to them both.
Are you aware the whole country's gone absolutely crazy back home?
You know what, I was speaking to Harry Kane this morning at breakfast, and I was saying I was trying to take it all in when I was on the pitch, and he was trying to drag me away for you guys, desperate to do an interview, but I was trying to soak it all in because obviously those moments don't come around often, but also we're in such a small little bubble that it kind of, you get into a routine, you just go on to the next, you know, next thing you know, we were back on the bus playing Uno, on the way back to base camp, ready for training and recovery the next day. So I'm sure the lads are all aware that, you know, there's a lot of hype, and the country are probably very excited about the game on Sunday, but, you know, our focus is on that final, and yeah, it's just back to base camp and focusing.
Hi Ollie, congratulations and good luck for Sunday as well. Jordan Jarrett Bryan, Channel 4 News. Much of the country have been very critical of the style of play, but I don't know anybody today that really cares about how you've got this final. They just want to win this final. As an attacking player yourself, how important is the more attacking brand of play to you? And I also ask, have you received any text messages from your club Spanish manager?
So the text messages, no, I haven't. I don't even actually have the boss's number, to be honest. But I have had some text messages, quite a few text messages actually. But yeah, I think I was going to after that the other night. And then secondly, onto the formation and how we're playing. You know, I feel like obviously the early stages, the group stages, we weren't playing our best football. It doesn't take a genius to work that one out. Everyone knew, even in base camp. But the main thing is we weren't losing games, so we were unbeaten. And then progressively, as the tournament's gone further on, you know, we're playing better football. We're controlling games. Even if we've gone a goal behind, we don't crumble. We've come back and shown that the togetherness, the attitude that everyone's there as a team to work hard and pull together, and I feel like we're only getting stronger game by game.
And it's also been noted that many strikers across the competition, it's not really strikers tournament from what we've seen, but with England, do you feel that depth in that particular part of
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's three strikers, me, H and Ivan, and we all have different attributes. And, you know, as a manager, I think you want as many options as possible, as much as it gives you a headache. And sometimes it's also perfect to have them options and being able to choose from, you know, different quality strikers.
Thanks. Carrie?
Hi, Ollie. Congratulations
Thank you.
on the last match and good luck going into this final. I want to take you back to Newton Abbot, Newton Town, and ask you, what was the first memory you have of sitting down and watching an England match? Where were you? Who was it?
I can't remember the first. I can't remember the first game or anything like that I watched. But I can remember not too long ago, actually, when I was in a pub with my best mate. I was watching an England game. I was in a goalkeeper shirt, I think a cheap goalkeeper shirt from Sainsbury's, and that was probably a good memory that I can remember. You know, being a fan and you know, just enjoying the moments. And now it's crazy to think that I'm here. I've played such a big part of us getting to the final, and yeah, it's a bit surreal, really.
You talk about it being surreal. David Beckham mentioned your goal on his Instagram, compared it to his Greece goal, and you said he didn't actually tag you in, but you said his goal was better. You do appreciate that your goal has got this team into the European final, right?
Yeah, I think obviously Beckham's. I just think his technique and a free kick from a dead ball situation is probably a lot harder. Obviously, granted that my goal was very special as well, and I'm not taking anything away from myself. But look, they're both iconic goals at the end of the day, and yeah, very important for our country.
There's been a message from the King of England, King Charles, who's saying, if I can encourage you, the England team, to secure victory before the need for any last-minute wonder goals or another penalty drama, I'm sure the stresses on the nation's collective heart rate and blood pressure would be greatly alleviated. Can you confirm or deny the rumour that these last-minute goals are all just for limbs?
No, as much as it obviously makes it more exciting, I feel like personally we don't care how we win or score, as long as the ball goes in the back of the net and we come off the pitch, you know, winning the game, it doesn't matter.
And it's been announced now that whoever ties for the Golden Boot, it won't come down to assists. There will be Golden Boots for every player tied. How much of an incentive is that for everyone in the camp as well?
Yeah, I think obviously as an attacking player you want to score as many goals as possible. Them achievements are great, individual, but I think everyone's focusing on the collective award, which is, you know, the team one, and to win the competition, and everyone's got their eyes on that. But yeah, we need to respect Spain because they're a very good team. But you know, it's going to be a difficult game, but you know, we need to focus on Sunday.
Hi Ollie, congrats on your goal and on being in the final. RLS from TV2 Norway. You're facing Lamine Yamal on Sunday. He's turning 17 tomorrow. Do you remember what you were doing on your 17th birthday?
I definitely wasn't preparing for a final, I can tell you that. You know, he's an unbelievable talent. Everyone's seen what he can do. Generational talent. It's not often that you are scoring goals against France in the top corner in the semi-final of the Euros when you're 16. So obviously he's got the world at his feet, and yeah, he's miles ahead of me when I was 16 or 17.
I mean, he's only a kid, but he has to deal with huge pressure. I mean, can you imagine how it is to be in his shoes during the age that he's in?
No, to be honest, I can't. Obviously, with social media and yeah, all the hype. Obviously, being at Barcelona, playing for Spain, there's a lot of hype around him. And obviously, for me, I feel like you have to have a good, close knit of people around you to keep you grounded and keep you focused, and I feel like that's what I have as well. I have good people around me to keep me on the straight and narrow and be there as a sounding board.
And you also have a young teammate that's doing well, Kobbie Mainoo. He's been impressing everyone. Can you give us an insight in what impresses you the most, both on and off the pitch with him?
Yeah, I feel like Kobbie's obviously a young player, but he doesn't act his age when he's on the pitch. You know, he takes the ball, he's very comfortable on the ball, he's confident, he demands the ball, and you know, to be such a young player and play at such a high level, you would never think he's the age he is. He plays with it with a certain aura and confidence about him, and yeah, he's got a very bright future ahead of him.
Hi Oli, congratulations for your goal on Sunday. Alberto Rubio from Marca. I'm sorry I cannot wish you good luck for Sunday. I want to know, Gareth Southgate said other day that in the way that Spain is playing is the favourite for the final. I want to know your opinion. If you think Spain is the favourite, England is the favourite, or is 50-50?
No, I feel like England we are obviously very strong. Spain I feel like they've had some very tough games, and they've had to come through, yeah, I would say maybe a harder journey than us, obviously playing France, Italy, Germany, so-called the bigger teams. So yeah, I see what the boss is saying, and I feel like they have been probably the best team of the competition so far.
And the second one, what do you think that are the biggest weapons of England to hurt Spain, and the biggest weapons of Spain to hurt England? Thank you so much.
Did you say the biggest? Weapons. Oh, weapons. Sorry. Obviously, the wingers for Spain are very dynamic, young, full of confidence and direct, but also, you know, across our team we have goals from everywhere, world-class talent. So it's going to be a very exciting match. I can't wait to watch it and be a part of it, and hopefully we can get the job done.
Hi, Oli. Abraham Romero for El Mundo Spain. I was going to say good luck, but yeah. You have a Spanish coach in Aston Villa, teammates like Pau Torres and Alex Moreno. You have Jude Bellingham in the locker room of England national team. What do you think about Spain and what they are saying to you about Spain and the football, Spanish football? Thank you.
To be honest, I've been in a little bit of a bubble. I've just been concentrating on ourselves, you know, preparing day by day for training, then focusing on the game. So I'm not aware of anything that the Spanish players have said or the coach. I'm just focusing on myself and the team, and yeah, getting ready for Sunday.
Fine.
Hi, Ollie.
Yeah.
Kyle Walker just listed your goal as his top moment of the Euros so far. When did you first watch it back? And also, when you talk about manifesting it, how does that process work for you?
Yeah, I think I watched it quite a few times when I got back to base camp. You know, it was yeah, I just had to. I always watch my goals back. You know, even my goals for Villa whenever I scored against someone. But that one, I think I watched it quite a few more times than normal. And then, yeah, manifesting it. I feel like there's been a lot of things in the process leading up to it. One of my good friends who is coming to the game actually told me years ago that he felt like I was going to score in the Euro final. Obviously I scored in the semi, so it was a game early, but you never know, that could happen on the weekend. Yeah, so little things that have happened prior to that game. A lot of people have told me things and spoken it into existence, and yeah, I just feel like whatever you put into the universe, you get back, and I'm a firm believer of that. You can believe something, but if you deep down really truly believe and that it can happen, then I think it will.
We had a caller on TalkSport earlier on today who said he refereed you when you were on loan at Weston-super-Mare. It was a really lovely anecdote that he gave. Are you aware of how inspiring your journey has been?
No, I'm not really. I take things day by day. I don't look too far ahead, or I don't really look too far back either. I know it's been an amazing journey, and obviously I've put in a lot of hard work to get to this point, but you know, anything's possible with hard work, and you know, I wouldn't say I'm technically the best here or the best player, but my work rate and dedication is up there with everyone here in the squad. So I feel like with hard work and dedication, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve anything. And yeah, to the kids that are out there that are playing non-league, you know, the dream isn't over. Just keep going, keep working hard, and you can get to where I am today for sure.
You are one game away from lifting the European Championship trophy, which is incredible. We've been asking all the players what they'd do if they won the Euros. Phil Foden says he wants the whole team to spray paint their hair in a St George's flag. Kyle Walker has just said he wants you all to get a tattoo. It has to be exactly the same one, done by the same tattoo artist.
Yeah.
What would you do if you win the Euros?
See, I'm not. I haven't got any tattoos, but I think I'd join in on that one. I think I'd go for the tattoo one. Yeah, I think it's good. Andy here has been setting up a game of. If you watch the TV program Traitors, another thing we've been playing is a game called Wolf. So I think I'd persuade Andy to get a little wolf tattoo as well. I think.
Brilliant. Right, I'll keep him to that.
Yeah. Thank you. Go back to Joe from Sky.
Hi Ollie, good luck for the weekend. Can you give us an insight into how Gareth Southgate has managed to keep all of the players that have been the finishers for the games ready for coming on? Because it's clear that every substitute has made such an impact throughout this tournament so far.
Yeah, I think Kieran Trippier did a good speech. You know, we presented him with Andy, was it 50 or 75 caps? 50 caps, a little kind of board saying congratulations, and he did a speech and said that, you know, the last Euros, I think he played maybe one group game, then he didn't play again till the quarter-final and then the final. So he's just like, as much as it may seem like you're not involved, everyone has to be ready because you're going to have a part to play. So I think everyone's taken that into consideration, and you know, us lads that have come off the bench have all had our moment, had that impact, and yeah, it proves that you're not actually that far away from playing or coming on and making a difference.
And lots of players in this squad have been in this position before. What have they said to the rest of you about their experiences and how to prepare for the game on Sunday?
To be fair, I've not had the conversation with many of them, but I know from previous when you play a game and it means so much to you, and you lose that game, you take experience from that, and you know, you do all you can to make sure you don't make the same mistakes. So I think obviously the last Euros we lost to Italy, and that's firmly on the lads' minds. So. Going to do everything we can to make sure we win on Sunday.
Okay, two more in this live section. Gentleman in the middle there, and then we'll come across here.
Hi, Oli. Pablo from Mundo Deportivo Spain. Congratulations. I will ask you for the crowd. In the semi-finals, there are a lot of more people from Netherlands, but how important is the crowd? Because they are so louder to the team. How important is in the final the crowd to the team?
Yeah, I think massive. You know, when you're playing on the pitch, you maybe don't take it into consideration, but obviously I've been on the bench and I've witnessed the fans, hearing them sing, and at one point the England fans were out singing the Dutch fans, and it seemed like there was a lot more of them than us, but you wouldn't have thought that with our fans being so loud. So as much as it may not seem like it, they do have an impact on the players, and you can hear quite a lot from the pitch. So their support is everything, and they've been supporting us so well so far. So hopefully they can keep going and be loud for us on Sunday.
You face Spain. Maybe the main character in Spain is Rodri. You play against in the Premier League. How important is to England to stop that player?
Yeah, very similar. I was speaking to Declan Rice earlier about, I can remember watching the Italy game, and Jorginho, I felt like was a crucial player for them when in the last Euro final. So this time, obviously playing against Rodri, everyone knows his talent, is a world-class player, and I feel like he is crucial for the way they build up. So, you know, if we can stop the ball from getting into him, it makes our life a lot easier. But it's never that simple with a world-class player like himself.
Sorry, one more behind you before we come here, and then we come there. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, Ollie.
Well, what an astonishing press conference that was with young Ollie Watkins. He talked about he knew he was going to score. I manifested it. I was not shocked. I've got that fire in my belly. I'm ready to be called upon whenever I'm needed. And he said people have spoken this goal into existence. What you put into the universe, you get out. Anything is possible with hard work. I wouldn't say that I'm the most technical, but with hard work and dedication, you can achieve anything. Tell that to all the children watching. You can achieve your dreams. What a beautiful, beautiful press conference that was, and quite out of the ordinary for an England player. But let's move on now. You know that at GB News, we always hear both sides of every story. So I'm delighted to say I can now speak to Spanish football journalist Alvaro Montero. Welcome to the show, Alvaro. So there were several Spanish journalists in the audience there. They wouldn't wish Ollie Watkins good luck, but they were clearly in awe of his talent. At the same time, Ollie Watkins was very clear. He said, Spain are the best team in this tournament. You are the team to beat. And yet he feels it might be destined. It might be in the gods that England can win. But either way, Alvaro, we've got one heck of a final waiting for us on Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, good afternoon. Well, the feeling after listening Ollie Watkins is that, of course, now Spain is favorite. But if you ask the Spanish media or even the fans 3 weeks ago before the Euro starts, everybody will say that in an hypothetical final between England and Spain, England was a favorite. But right now we have to believe and we have to understand the state of euphoria right now in the Spanish media and in the Spanish fans, because for the first time in the whole Euro history, I mean the whole tournament, Spain has won the 6 games. So Luis de la Fuente team has won all the games. Only 3 goals conceded, 13 goals. They've got the top scorer. They've got the top assist. And right now, if you realize and you see back all the 6 games, Spain has got 6 MVPs different in each of those 6 games. So we're not speaking about a regular team with 1 or 2 superstars, but a team where everybody feels now like a superstar. Everybody feels now extremely important. And with that feeling and difference of what I said before 3 or 4 weeks ago, that right now Spain is the team to beat, obviously.
You know, Alvaro, I put some money on Spain 10 minutes after watching you play this tournament. You are an astonishing outfit. Obviously, I want England to win, but we have 2 sets of players that know each other, that with a lot of your players play in the Premier League, two sets of players from Ollie Watkins there that clearly respect each other. You've had a hard route to the final. Do you think that might give England the edge? You've had to face Germany. You've had to knock out France. You've had a much tougher route. Might that be a little bit of an edge towards England?
Yeah, it's possible. And after that, of course, we have to remember that Spain, as you said, has been qualified in the last games, winning all the World Cup champions, starting with Italy in the group stage, then France, Germany before, right now, hopefully for Spain, England. So as you said, and as I was saying before, in the very first game, many people believe that, Croatia is going to be difficult, Italy almost impossible, and we have to qualify against Albania, who knows? And after that, those 3-4 games, and after beating the way they did with Germany, and especially with France, controlling the ball, passing, arriving, making a lot of decisions and good decisions and targets in those games, the feeling is that right now Spain is even better from the last game. So now the question is, what Spain are we going to see in the final? I mean, what can they do? They've won against Germany in the very last moment, suffering, but doing it. They've controlled in the group stage perfectly all those 3 games with 9 points and on almost no conceding goals. They've done it incredibly well against France, which was with England, that both teams we thought at the start of the tournament they were going to win. So now the question is, which Spain are we going to see? Because until this moment, it's been amazing.
Do you know what? The Spanish journalist there wouldn't wish Ollie Watkins good luck, but I am going to wish you good luck, Alvaro Montero. I think it's going to be a fantastic game of football, but of course, a bit more luck going to the English. Thank you very much for joining us on GB News. Please enjoy the game. Thank you very much. Now let's cross to Berlin and speak to our reporter, Jack Carson. Jack, that press conference from Ollie Watkins there was absolutely astonishing. Now, I'm even more excited than ever before. You must be off your head with excitement. And what about the fans in Berlin?
Well, you can just feel it, Martin. You only have to stand here. Of course, I'm right in front of the Brandenburg Gate. The history that this city holds is just incredible, and you can just feel the history, feel the anticipation from these England fans. There's been a few that have been turning up today. You know, I got a train here to Berlin yesterday. There were quite a few people on that train, of course, coming from Dortmund from that semi-final. But we've been hearing, haven't we, all day and all over the last couple of days about how the inventive ways in which people are going to be getting to this final. Because, of course, the flights are sold out from England. BA are having to put on extra flights as well. So there's so much anticipation from the England fans. You know, the spike in searches for tickets for the final and planes for the final went up 1,000%. So it feels like the whole of England is trying to get to Berlin. It's thought around 50,000 fans will be in the city. 30,000 are trying to get into the stadium. Some of them have been here today, making the most of this atmosphere, making the most, of course, of the time that they've got here in Berlin. Because, yes, this city has so much history, but it's England's chance to write their own this Sunday at the Olympia Stadion. You know, you heard from Ollie Watkins there. He knows that it has been difficult for him to be on the bench when he's such a regular starter for Aston Villa, but he's got that drive now to score, of course, you know, in the semi-final, to take us to the final. You saw how much excitement he's got. He's ready for the final. The fans here are ready for the final. I'm ready for the final, Martin.
Well, Jack Carson, there's only 2 more sleeps to go, but by the look of you, mate, you're not going to sleep. You seem so excited. You're just going to be mainlining adrenaline all the way until that whistle there, Captain.
I think so. There is nothing more getting me through than possibly seeing England lift the European trophy on Saturday. I'm just dreaming, Martin. I'm dreaming.
Well, live the dream. You certainly are. You've got the best seat in the house, Jack Carson. Absolute pleasure to talk to you. Speak to you later on the show. Jack Carson there live from Berlin. Now, about to talk about yet another terrible night for Joe Biden. Has he made his worst ever gaffe? And that takes some doing. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It is going to be a bit messy as we go into this weekend. There'll be some rain, some showers around and a glimmer of sunshine at times. Looking at the bigger picture, and there is high pressure just to the west of us, but also various features bringing some showery rain for some too. In the southwest, watch out for some heavy thundery downpours as we head towards this evening. Could cause some localised issues. Elsewhere, there'll be some clouds, some showery rain. Some thicker cloud brings some more persistent rain to eastern parts of England as that pushes in from the North Sea. Perhaps a little bit drier further west, still some spots of rain around. A lot of cloud though, so temperatures generally holding up in double figures, especially in the towns and cities. Through tomorrow morning then, a damp picture across eastern parts, further outbreaks of rain here. In the south though, any showers will have cleared overnight, so it's a mostly dry picture here in the southwest. Some sunshine earlier on, cloudier further east. Further outbreaks of showery rain as we head further northwards. Always brightest the further west you go because of that high pressure that I mentioned earlier. Further east, it is always going to be that bit cloudier, that bit damper, and there'll be some blustery winds to watch out for too. Little change as we go through the rest of the day. We are going to see that rain across eastern parts pushing a bit further west, and so more places likely to turn a little bit damper, but further west still some bright or sunny spells and just a few showers to watch out for. Some of those showers could be heavy, possibly thundery, but not looking as intense as those that we've seen today. Temperatures are going to be a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling pretty cool towards those eastern coastal parts because of the cloud, the rain and those brisk winds. More rain pushing in from the North Sea as we go through later Saturday into Sunday. Elsewhere staying largely dry, some bright sunny spells, and in fact Sunday doesn't look too bad, just a few showers to watch out for before more rain arrives in time for the beginning of next week. Bye-bye.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon to you. Hello again, I'm Jules Buckley. There's some queues in a couple of spots of the northbound M6 in the West Midlands this afternoon. Now, firstly, stop-start just around Junction 10, the turn off of Wolverhampton and Walsall. There was an obstruction on the carriageway. That's now being cleared, but it's still queuing. And there was a breakdown northbound too around Spaghetti Junction. That's Junction 6. Again, that's cleared. Seeing queues back to Castle Bromwich at 5. And the outbound A38M, the Aston Expressway, is slow back towards Dartmouth Circus. A1M southbound in Hertfordshire queuing, a lane shut for Kellish and Stevenage south at Junction 7, down towards Welling at Junction 6, that's queuing. And in Hampshire there's a partial blockage of the northbound M3. It's at the Winnell roundabout, Winchester North at 9, an obstruction there causing queues back to 12 at Eastleigh. And for now, that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 3:43. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now to more questions being asked once again about Joe Biden and what his continuing presence as US President means for us here in the UK and the rest of the world. At a time when he's under huge pressure and growing pressures to pull out of the presidential race, he made arguably his worst ever mistake last night. Unforgivably, he called Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky President Putin. I'm joined now by GBNews reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, he had an absolute stinker.
And that was the first of two gaffes, because later on in a press conference, seen by many as a pivotal moment in this extraordinary week for President Biden, he referred to his Vice President, Kamala Harris, as Vice President Trump. And as that happened, the cameras from the press there at this press conference observing his Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, his Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, and also the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. Two of them looked very concerned. Lloyd Austin kind of staring straight on, but you could feel the sense of shame and actually a slight tinge of embarrassment watching on as that happened. And as I said, this is a pivotal week because since June the 27th, when Biden faced Trump in that so-called no-holds-barred debate, it didn't go well for Biden. Since then, his support from several Democrats has collapsed. His pollings have been pretty drastically poor, and we're now seeing public statements from congressional Democrats urging Biden to not run again in 2024 in the upcoming November election. 20 congressional Democrats have called on him publicly to step down. We also understand that former President Barack Obama and the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, are having private conversations where they are revealing that they don't believe that Biden has what it takes to beat Trump. And at the same time, veteran congressional Democrat staffers from both the Obama and the previous Clinton administrations are said to be running a unofficial unelect the president committee. Hourly updates from them, speaking to donors, speaking to key leaders in this potential race, as for the first time this week, Kamala Harris, his VP, has overtaken him in the prediction on who might be the next Democratic nominee from August, looking into that November election.
Charlie Peters' excellent summary of a nightmare night for Joe Biden. Now, I'm not joined by Errol Moorcock, who's a spokesperson for Republicans overseas. Eric, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. Errol, beg your pardon. So it was a nightmare night, an absolute nightmare night for Joe Biden. Nobody can deny that. The question is, how long can this charade roll on?
Well, it seems quite possible to roll on all the way until November. If you keep in mind that this is the only job that Joe Biden and the Biden family have. So the concept that he's going to back down is not going to really play. Now, do we have congressional calls for him to step down? Yes. Do we have the Senate uniting to do that? No. So I don't think that we're going to lose Joe Biden as a candidate. I mean, it would be nice if he had as much composure and sense as Mr. Ollie Watkins, who I just watched in his press conference, but we don't have that kind of a president. We have somebody who's at this point almost a national security liability. Keep in mind, about 500,000 people have died on the Ukrainian side of this war, and to have him not even respect the fact that they're fighting against Putin and not Zelensky. I mean, these are gaffes, I understand, but they send a message. They send a message of lack of confidence. And that's a message that's going to be doubled down on. The press secretary, the White House, these people would have no other recourse for having a job if it wasn't for Joe Biden. If Joe Biden is removed, a different political party inside the Democrat Party would take over. And so because of that, I think we're going to see Joe Biden all the way to the conclusion of this election. And that's a terrible thing for him, for our country, and for the Democrat Party, who I'm obviously rooting against. Now, I'm happy that we're going to be going up against Joe Biden. I don't think that they're going to be able to switch him out. The only possible chance is Vice President Harris, not Vice President Trump, of course. She does have an ability to step in there. I don't think it's going to happen, and I think we're going to be really stuck with this. So,
OK, we have to leave it there. We're simply out of time. Thank you very much, Errol Moore-Coach, for joining us on GB News. Thank you. Now, the man convicted of plotting to kidnap, rape and murder TV star Holly Willoughby has been jailed for life. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Meghan Markle has reportedly finished filming her new show for Netflix. It aims to celebrate the joys of cooking, gardening, entertaining and friendship.
Yeah, this comes after Prince Harry's Netflix documentary, The Heart of Invictus, failed to hit the right note with viewers, missing out on the top 10 in the streaming charts.
So, will this next venture be a success? Well, joining us now is royal commentator Kinsey Schofield.
I know I've talked to the both of you about Meghan Markle potentially running for president, so this feels like a bit of a dud to go from Meghan Markle running for president to Meghan Markle's Netflix series about friendship and cooking. So she's wrapped this recent show. They rented a home near hers in Montecito, so that as their cooking set. And they're saying that this is really make or break for Harry and Meghan when it comes to their Netflix contract.
Do you think, Kinsey, it's fair to say that Meghan Markle has proved to be commercially a bit of a damp squib? Even in America, her native homeland, she's kind of Oprah without the audience when it comes to the cooking. Also, is she kind of, do you think... They saw her as the golden ticket, didn't they, to unlimited revenue, unlimited audiences, and it just hasn't happened.
Look, I think Meghan is a beautiful woman, and I do think she's talented, but I think how you treat people is incredibly important. And not only was she rumored to have been cruel inside Kensington Palace with several bullying allegations, but here in the States, Archwell Productions, their audio section, their scripted section, they've gone through several employees. And I think it's a reflection on the way that people are treated there. And I think as a viewer, you might get that. You might feel that way. And maybe that is where the appeal has been lost.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 3:51. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. A security guard has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 16 years for planning to kidnap, rape and murder TV star Holly Willoughby. Chelmsford Crown Court was told Gavin Plum's plot had a catastrophic and life-changing impact on the former This Morning presenter. And GB News' national reporter Theo Chikomba is outside Chelmsford Crown Court. Theo, bring us up to speed.
Yes, well, the court heard that some of the detail as part of this case, which lasted around 8 days, could not be shared in the public gallery. This was only reserved for those on the jury and for those who are accredited press as part of the trial. But what we do know is that Gavin Plum, 37-year-old from Harlow, had been planning this for over 2 years. And then he went on the social media app called Kick, and on there he met David Nelson, who's an undercover police officer from the UK. And David and he didn't know this at the time, but he was speaking to an undercover police officer. And then he was arrested in October 2023 after Nelson flagged his concerns to the FBI and passed that information onto Essex Police. Now, today we've heard from the prosecutor, who added that Plum had been researching her movements, her home address, seeing whether she had CCTV or not at her home. And the prosecutor described this as part of a plan, what she said was to abduct and kill. Now, in terms of, we also heard from Plum's barrister, Sasha Wass, who said that the defendant is embarrassed and ashamed by the details of his online conversations, and they were conversations he were expected to remain private. Now, of course, he has been jailed for a minimum of 15 years and 85 days, given a life sentence, and his jail term, this is for separate offences, will be served concurrently, so at the same time. And he's also been subject to a restraining order and won't be allowed to attend any events where Miss Holly Willoughby will be. So, of course, this is following the sentencing that took. We also just finally heard from the chief detective in this case, Greg Wood, and he says it cannot be right for men to have access to forums where they plan to cause harm to women and girls.
OK, thank you, Theo Chikomba there, live outside Chelmsford Crown Court for that update. Now, there are major developments in the case of the human remains found in 2 suitcases in Bristol, and they're believed to be the remains of 2 adult men. We'll have a full update on that story after this. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel. But before that, it's time for your weather, and here's Alex Burker.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It is going to be a bit messy as we go into this weekend. There'll be some rain, some showers around, and a glimmer of sunshine at times. Looking at the bigger picture, and there is high pressure just to the west of us, but also various features bringing some showery rain for some too. In the southwest, watch out for some heavy thundery downpours as we head towards this evening. Could cause some localised issues. Elsewhere, there'll be some clouds, some showery rain. Some thicker cloud brings some more persistent rain to eastern parts of England as that pushes in from the North Sea. Perhaps a little bit drier further west, still some spots of rain around. A lot of cloud though, so temperatures generally holding up in double figures, especially in the towns and cities. Through tomorrow morning then, a damp picture across eastern parts, further outbreaks of rain here. In the south though, any showers will have cleared overnight, so it's a mostly dry picture here in the southwest. Some sunshine earlier on, cloudier further east. Further outbreaks of showery rain as we head further northwards. Always brightest the further west you go because of that high pressure that I mentioned earlier. Further east, it is always going to be that bit cloudier, that bit damper, and there'll be some blustery winds to watch out for too. Little change as we go through the rest of the day. We are going to see that rain across eastern parts pushing a bit further west, and so more places likely to turn a little bit damper, but further west still some bright or sunny spells and just a few showers to watch out for. Some of those showers could be heavy, possibly thundery, but not looking as intense as those that we've seen today. Temperatures are going to be a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling pretty cool towards those eastern coastal parts because of the cloud, the rain and those brisk winds. More rain pushing in from the North Sea as we go through later Saturday into Sunday. Elsewhere staying largely dry, some bright sunny spells, and in fact Sunday doesn't look too bad, just a few showers to watch out for before more rain arrives in time for the beginning of next week. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Jules Buckley. South Yorkshire seeing queues on the northbound M18, junction 3 St Catherine's up to Westmore at 4. An obstruction means a lane blocked and delays. Northbound M6 queuing 2 in Lancashire. Now 2 lanes coned off at the M61 interchange. That's junction 30 for a police incident that's causing delays. A collision northbound on the M5 from the M50, junction 8 up to Worcester and Evesham at 7, causing queues. There's a lane shut. A lane shut 2 in Somerset. The northbound M5 Burnham-on-Sea 22 up to Western Supermare junction 21. There's a breakdown and that's causing delays. And just 1 lane open, anti-clock M25 from Romford at 29 to Brentwood 28. 3 lanes coned off there. A lorry and a car involved in a collision, naturally causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far and it could be yours. Phil was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox. I just looked at my account and thought, oh my God, yeah, it's true, it's gone into my account. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have saved Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done. Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
A very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster, all across the UK. The security guard has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 16 years after hatching depraved and vile plans to kidnap, rape and murder TV star Holly Willoughby. After calling Zelensky, Putin and Kamala Harris Trump, Joe Biden fluffed the biggest night of his life last night. And now Biden's key allies, including Barack Obama, George Clooney and 20 Democrats congressmen, are calling for Joe to go. Next up, is there a revolt in the Reform Party? Well, former Deputy Leader Ben Habib claims he wasn't informed he was being replaced by Richard Tice. And in a direct challenge, the leader Nigel Farage has claimed Reform UK must be democratised. Is there trouble at the Reform Mill? And there's only 2 more sleeps to go before England take on Spain at the Euro final in Berlin. After 58 years of torture, can Gareth Southgate's 3 Lions finally bring football home. And that's all coming up in your next hour. And there are also major developments in the case of the human remains found in 2 suitcases in Bristol. They're believed to be the remains of 2 adult men. We'll have the full update on that shortly. And I want to hear from you. This is your show as well. Send your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say. And now it's your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you very much and good afternoon to you. It's just after 4 o'clock and we start this hour with those latest breaking lines coming to us in the ongoing manhunt in Bristol. As Martin mentioned there, we now know that the human remains found in 2 suitcases near the city's Clifton Suspension Bridge are believed to be those of 2 adult men. Police in the last few hours have issued a warning not to approach the suspect involved in the case. That's after photos were released along with a description of a man with a beard wearing a black Adidas baseball cap, black jeans and a black jacket. You can see there, if you're watching on television, those pictures of that main suspect. He's also believed to have been wearing a gold earring and was carrying a black backpack at the time he was caught on CCTV. The Metropolitan Police think the suspect travelled from London to Bristol on Wednesday night, where the remains were discovered. Detectives are now urging anyone who sees the suspect or may know his whereabouts to call 999 immediately. We've also heard that there are now extra patrols in place in Bristol and across West London as the search intensifies, and a crime scene is also now in place at a location yet to be confirmed in Shepherd's Bush in West London, with detectives from the Metropolitan Police Force now leading that ongoing investigation. We will, in the next few minutes, have our Home and Security editor, Mark White, on the scene, or as close as he can get to it, with the latest updates for you throughout the rest of this afternoon. In other news, a security guard has been sentenced today to at least 15 years in jail for what were described as depraved and vile plans to kidnap, to rape and to murder TV presenter Holly Willoughby. Chelmsford Crown Court was told that Gavin Plum's plot had a catastrophic and life-changing impact on her. Detective Chief Inspector Greg Wood from Essex Police led the investigation.
Planned this attack on Miss Willoughby over a 2-year period, scoping her movements, seeking help from others and buying items that would incapacitate and inflict violence. He is not a fantasist. He's a calculating sexual predator who has spent his adult life seeking to inflict violence on women.
A 26-year-old man has now been arrested on suspicion of the murders of 3 women in Hertfordshire. 61-year-old Carol Hunt and her 2 daughters, 25-year-old Louise and Hannah, who's 28, were attacked in their home in Bushey. Hertfordshire police say the main suspect has been treated for injuries in hospital since then, but was only arrested today. He remains in a serious condition. Prisoners who've served 40% of their sentences rather than 50 will be released to help alleviate overcrowding in England and Wales. Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood has warned failings to act now risks the collapse of the criminal justice system. The move, though, doesn't apply to the most serious offenders. Former Justice Minister Sir Robert Buckland says, though, that Labour can't just blame the previous government.
The government just merely points the finger at its predecessor and doesn't come up with other ideas about how to reduce the population awaiting trial, the remand population, then I think it will have missed an opportunity. And I think it's important that viewers know that we should be looking very carefully to make sure that serious violent criminals should not be released. And anybody on this scheme shouldn't be a domestic abuser or a stalker or an offender of that nature, because we should be maintaining confidence and making sure the public aren't put at risk.
The Home Secretary has described the deaths of 4 migrants in the English Channel as truly awful. Vet Cooper's comments came as the migrants drowned after their boat capsized. The French Coast Guard says more than 60 people were reported to be on the boat off the northern coast near Boulogne. Latest Home Office figures show 419 people have made the journey across the Channel from France to the UK in 6 boats. Those figures for Tuesday. It suggests an average of around 70 people per boat, taking the provisional total so far this year to now just over 14,000. In the US, President Joe Biden has vowed to fight on despite two major gaffes at the NATO summit and a growing number of Democrats calling for him to stand aside. Speaking at the Washington event last night, he mistakenly referred to the Ukrainian president as President Putin before correcting himself. Have a listen.
Ukraine will prevail in this war, and we'll stand with them every single step of the way. That's what the compact says, loudly and clearly. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin.
Well, speaking just a short while later after that first mishap while taking questions from journalists, he also went on to mix up the names of Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Royal news next, and the Princess Royal has begun her first public engagement since suffering concussion in a horse-related accident. Anne, who's 73, spent 5 nights in hospital after she was believed to have been struck by a horse while out walking on her estate earlier this month. It's understood the visit to Hartpury College in Gloucestershire is the first step in a phased return to public duties as she recovers from her condition. And in sport, England striker Ollie Watkins says he is ready to deliver again if he's given the chance in Sunday's Euro 2024 final against Spain. He came off the bench to score a dramatic 90th minute winner in Wednesday's semi-final against the Netherlands. The King has asked Gareth Southgate's side to alleviate the blood pressure of the nation by avoiding late drama in the final. And hopefully no penalties either. Prince Harry has accepted the Pat Tillman Award for serving following a major backlash from fellow veterans. The award is named after a US war hero who died in Afghanistan, and his mother criticised the decision to the honour of the Duke of Sussex. Before the ceremony, more than 75,000 people signed a petition protesting against the decision to give the Prince the award. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sam Francis. Much more on that top story, the Bristol and London manhunt, throughout the rest of this afternoon.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. And we start with that breaking news and a major update on the manhunt following the discovery of human remains in 2 suitcases in Bristol. And GB News' Homeland Security editor Mark White joins us from West London, where the crime was believed to have taken place. Mark, tell us more.
Well, Martin, of course, this is the second major manhunt in just a few days following that triple murder in Hertfordshire earlier in the week, and now the confirmation that it's not just one body related to the human remains found in 2 suitcases in Bristol, but indeed 2 bodies that have now been discovered, or at least their remains. The police confirming late this afternoon that the remains were those of 2 adult males found in these suitcases, which were being deposited on the Clifton suspension bridge just near Bristol just before midnight on Wednesday evening. And a very significant development late this afternoon with the confirmation from the Metropolitan Police that they have now taken over this manhunt, this criminal investigation, as they believe that the 2 men who were murdered and dismembered were killed in London, and that suspect had travelled from London earlier in the evening on Wednesday before, of course, getting to the Clifton Suspension Bridge by a taxi. Now, the Metropolitan Police have confirmed to us that they have an active crime scene here in the Shepherd's Bush area, and that might indicate a location where these 2 men were killed and perhaps dismembered. It may be a location that is linked to the prime suspect in this case. the man on the CCTV stills, the images that have now been circulated right around the country of this black man wearing the Adidas baseball cap with a beard, a relatively young black man. No indication yet in terms of the police releasing a name, if they do know who this person is at this stage. But as I say, the Metropolitan Police confirming that, as well as that active crime scene in Avon and Somerset Police Force area, just at the Clifton Suspension Bridge, we now have an active crime scene here in Shepherd's Bush in West London. We've also had a statement from the man who is now leading this investigation, Deputy Assistant Commissioner Andy Valentine. Now, he said, over the last 48 hours, we've been working extremely closely with colleagues from Avon and Somerset. This work leads us to believe the man we need to speak to travelled to Bristol from London earlier on Wednesday evening. He said that we're drawing on resources from across the Metropolitan Police area to find and apprehend the suspect. And he said, I would urge anyone who has any information or who may have seen him to dial 999 immediately. And they are urging the public not to approach this prime suspect, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Mark White, for that update from Shepherd's Bush in West London. Thank you for joining us on GB News. Now, a security guard has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 16 years for planning to kidnap, rape and murder TV star Holly Willoughby. Chelmsford Crown Court was told Gavin Plum's plot had a catastrophic and life-changing impact on the former This Morning presenter. I'm joined now by the former Scotland Yard detective, Inspector Hamish Brown. Welcome to the show, Hamish. Always a pleasure to have your company. Could I ask you first about the decision taken by the judge not to release some of the details of this case because they were deemed too graphic? How unusual is that?
Well, the courts always have that discretion of what is going to be released. Normally, the full statement will come out, but with these victim impact statements, there can be some very personal information in it, and very often victims just don't want that even given to the defendant, for that matter. So it's a bit of a difficult decision for the prosecutor and then ultimately the judge. But this has brought home something very important. It's a stalking type offence, which you know I've done a lot of work on. And what comes out of stalking, it is the psychological injury that really counts, that really digs in. In this case, Holly Willoughby, and she has interviewed me in the past, and I want to say what a charming and lovely person she is. And she must be devastated by all this going on. And although no direct force was applied to her, she was subject to, ultimately, it was inevitable, she was going to be told, actually, she's subject to these threats, to what was going on, what was going through his mind, the preparation going through. So I really wish her well, and any other victim, may I say, in these circumstances. Actually, very often in stalking type offences, it's ordinary members of the public and not the celebrities. It's celebrities that make the news, but they're entitled to be protected just like anyone else. And I'm so pleased, and well done to the Essex Police, and well done to that detective in America for all their hard work. I think the Met had some involvement as well, so well done to them. And this man's locked away, quite rightly so. One, it keeps him out of harm's way for an awful long time. And secondly, it sends out that message that the police and the judiciary won't tolerate it and woe betide people who go down that path.
And Hamish Brown, what was telling when the police made a statement after he was sent down, they claimed he was not a fantasist. He is a calculated sexual predator who has spent his adult life planning to commit harm against women. This individual instance, they claimed, was planned for 2 years. And of course, he had form. So here's somebody with form, with intent, with malicious planning, precisely the kind of person, Hamish Brown, that should spend a long, long time at His Majesty's pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. And the Detective Chief Inspector from Essex, he spoke afterwards and he just showed the importance of the investigation. I say I'm just so pleased he has been locked away. I was looking at the internet with comments coming on, and some people are saying, well, it's a bit of a harsh sentence. You know, he didn't really do anything. Well, he did everything. He got through to poor Holly, who's had to suffer this, and the mental torture, the trauma all victims have to go through sometimes is indescribable. And one of the questions I ask stalking victims is, has anything changed in your life? Now, I know with Holly Willoughby, some things have changed. There are big changes, although there was no direct threat as far as she knew to her. So it was quite right to come back to the initial point that on should her witness impact statement be fully read out. No, there are going to be private things in that, and she's been through quite enough. And I think just to portray that this mental torture she's been through is absolutely intolerable, and it has affected even someone like Holly Willoughby, who's used to talking to millions, been on TV, and a strong but lovely personality.
Hamish Brown, former Scotland Yard Detective Inspector, thank you very much for sharing your expert insight. Gavin Plum will spend a long time in prison. Thank you very much. Justice has been served. Now, more questions being asked today about Joe Biden, and the main one is what his continuing presence as US president means for us here in the UK and the rest of the world at a time when he's under growing pressure to pull out of the presidential race. He made arguably his worst mistake ever last night. Unforgivably, he called Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky President Putin. Watch this.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Well, I'm joined now by Bob Mulholland from the California Democratic Party. Bob, welcome to the show. We've spoken on this precise topic a number of times, and you must confess last night was an absolute nightmare. So much so, in fact, now 20 Democratic congressmen have called for Biden to quit. George Clooney, Barack Obama is concerned, CNN, the New York Times, allies, friends, colleagues saying this charade has to end. What's your take?
Well, too late for that. And a new poll out nationwide today shows Biden at 50 and Trump at 48. I think insiders, of course, especially politicians, always got as those who are running for re-election themselves, are very worried that, oh my God, Biden can't do it. Well, as far as the American people are concerned, a couple gaps here and there by both candidates is not the issue. The issue is Biden versus Trump, and most Americans at this point are split. There's nobody ahead at 10 points or anything like that. And I think that there was some English fans that left those Euro 2024 games a little too early, thinking their English team wasn't going to win. Well, this Sunday, those fans will be there hoping for that Euro 2024 championship. I will say this, President Biden could not win the Tour de France. He could not be a player on the English team as they beat Spain, but he can beat Trump.
Bob, I like you. I think you're smart. I know you've spoken very highly in the past of Joe Biden. I know you have a distinguished career yourself, but what you're saying sounds like you're in denial of reality. The evidence is before us. The evidence is manifest. You can point to one poll that came out last night. The confidence amongst your own party voters is plummeting in this man. Why, oh why, oh why are you backing somebody to the hilt who seems to be, to the whole world watching, a liability?
Well, 14 million Democrats voted for Joe Biden. I was one of the people selected as a Biden-Harris delegate. I will be in Chicago August 19th. This will be my 13th national convention as a delegate. I remember many, many conventions where the end was falling over. In fact, Sam Donaldson of ABC in 1995 said that President Clinton is in so much trouble, He won't even file for re-election. Well, we all know Clinton got elected to a second term. Reagan had some problems in his first debate. This is not about who is the smartest, of course that is Biden, or who can really knock the socks off the other guy. Neither of these candidates are going to knock the socks off the other guy.
Bob, do you not think that just stapling your colours to Biden like this, and I admire your loyalty. I think it's a wonderful thing. You're a loyal, you're a guy who has a huge amount of admiration for Joe Biden. You've spoken of that very warmly and openly on the show before. But isn't this now just backing the wrong horse? You're going to lose the election. Every poll out there is going down and down for your man, apart from this one you just mentioned. George Clooney, who's an extreme fan, he said, I love this guy. He said he's not the same guy he used to be. Something has changed, and there needs to be a change on the ticket.
Well, I'm sure glad George did the fundraiser a few weeks ago for President Biden, raised about 25 million pounds. And remember, George, he's a great Democrat. He's in the acting business. He sees how quickly somebody who's top of their list in their 20s and then bottom of the list in their 40s. So President Biden has heard all these issues. President Biden also has heard from many, many Democratic Congress members, keep going. This is particularly the Black Caucus Congress members. And remember, the #1 support for Democrats for president is the Black communities around America, especially in my home state of Pennsylvania. So yes, there's different voices, but right now we're full speed ahead for Biden.
OK, Bob Mulholland, you know, I'll say this about you. You're fiercely loyal. Bob Mulholland from the California Democratic Party. Thank you, as ever, for joining us here on GB News. Thank you. Now, I've lots more on the crisis facing Joe Biden at 5 o'clock, and there's plenty of coverage on our website, gbnews.com, and you've helped to make it the fastest growing national news website in the country. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, we're just 2 sleeps away from one of English football's biggest ever games. We're about to cross live to Berlin and hear from the England squad ahead of Sunday's epic Euro 2024 final with the Spaniards. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The Royal Academy's annual exhibition has returned for the 256th time to Brighton the summer holidays. It's the world's oldest open submission exhibition. Anyone can enter work to be considered for inclusion. I'm joined now by art critic J.J. Charlesworth for his verdict. What is your verdict?
My verdict is you should go and see it. You are confronted with many things of varying quality, selected by artists, and you very much, instead of being given something to you that's supposed to be good, you have to make your own decision.
I went along yesterday, and I personally did see some pictures on the wall that I thought were absolutely stunning. I'm going to mention Peter Ucker, which I think is a remark. And now these are the 2 by Ben Jonson, Grundtvig 1, and we've got one coming out of Berlin Pool. I think that's an absolutely stunning piece of work. And then Claire Douglas should be up. Here we are, Claire Douglas.
Yes.
Souvenir from the Anthropocene.
Yeah.
That last one, actually, a very witty painting.
A piece like that was really interesting. I think it caught a lot of people's eyes because it had very kind of humorous, slightly bleak take on post-Brexit Britain. It's set in this fictitious world of Brummington, which is a sort of loose satire on Birmingham. I thought it was a bit mean.
I think we had maybe Black Lives Matter. We had Boris Johnson. I think our own Jacob Rees-Mogg made his way into the painting.
Yeah, so there's definitely a slant, a political slant, on the part of the artist. But even that said, I thought it was an interesting and enjoyable work, even though maybe you don't agree with the artist on what they're trying to say. And I think that actually made for an interesting moment because you're seeing that people are disagreeing, right? Both through the artwork and in front of artworks.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:26. I'm Martin Daubney, and this is GB News. Now, later in the show, I'll bring you some great news about the Princess Royal. But before that, to one of the biggest nights in English football history. There's just 2 sleeps to go until England take on Spain in the Euro 2024 final. Now, you don't need me to remind you that it's 58 tortuous years since we last won a major trophy. Ollie Watkins got the winning goal in the semi-final against the Netherlands, and he says he had full belief when he came on that he was going to score.
It's been an unbelievable feeling, to be honest. One that I was, I was taken back by the goal, but also I wasn't shocked that I did that, really, because I have full belief in myself. I knew when I was going onto the pitch that I was going to score. I manifested it. I had worked very hard to get to that point. So it's been an amazing feeling, but I'm not shocked.
Amazing stuff. And let's cross now to Berlin and speak to the sports broadcaster Chris Scudder. Chris, I thought that was an astonishing press conference from Ollie Watkins. Humble, filled with self-belief and a real insight into the England camp. And he said something quite prophetic. He said, 2 years ago, a friend of mine told me I was going to score the winning goal in the final of the European Championships. Chris Scudder, I know all along you've been backing the Three Lions to the hilt. And, mate, I'm starting to agree with you.
Yeah, 10 years ago, he was playing non-league football. It's fairy tale stuff. But, he's not going to start. Almost certainly it'll be Kane. And the strength of this England, quite apart from the fact that they're slowly improving as the tournament goes on, that's always a very good sign, is that togetherness, that belief, and their bench. It's almost like Spain are going to be playing against 15 players, because we saw what happened the other night. And Gareth Southgate's been criticised for the timing of his substitutions, but he got it bang on the other day with Cole Palmer and Ollie Watkins coming on and combining to get that winning goal. So, if it doesn't go well for England, even if they go a goal behind, they've done it 3 times in a row and come back to win each time, they will still have that belief. They've got the bench, they've got the extra players, and that togetherness, which we've not had before. That's the difference for me. And, there's a huge amount of optimism. I've been around town today up to the Reichstag and looking at the bullet holes in the wall from World War II. Extraordinary stuff. England fans are gathering, and it really feels special already.
And yet, in that press conference, rightly, Ollie Watkins said Spain are the best team in this tournament. They're the ones to beat. He talks about how fast and nimble their wingers are. But yet, I think, Chris, you're right. Something seems to have happened. Do you feel that England are just peaking at the right time and going into this final, the team they always knew they could be?
Yeah, I mean, football's very reactionary. When you start badly, everyone criticises, but it isn't how you start. As so many people have said, it's how you finish. And it really doesn't matter what it looks like now. Spain have been great. They've scored almost twice as many goals as England. They've won all their games against very good teams as well. They've beaten Croatia, they've beaten Italy, they've beaten Germany in Germany, and they've beaten France as well. But, they're up against a team with a lot of nous, and finals can be very cagey. And as we've seen with England, they don't care what it looks like now. It's about winning, absolutely about winning. And if it's ugly, no one will care one jot. Trust me on this. And it'll be the biggest party of all time if England do win it.
Now, Chris, I spoke to Sam Allardyce last night and asked him for his prediction. He said 2-1 England after extra time. Not that again. Chris Scudder, let's have some mystic Scuds. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's going to be close. I think that togetherness will do it for England. They It just feels like the time now that having been there before, and the players, a lot of players who are involved then losing to Italy, the penalty shootout, it might go to pens again. Just imagine how tense that's going to be if it does happen. But look at them; they're looking very relaxed, all of them, and they feel like it's their time. And if the other big talking point today is, will Gareth Southgate stay? I mean, I think getting to the final is par for him. We expected to get this far, and we have. So he can relax a little bit. But should England lose, I think there will be another pile-on. That's the nature of football, I'm afraid. Just one thing I didn't like the other night was when in the semi-final, when England won, they celebrated like they'd already won it. I would have preferred it if they'd have said, we've won nothing yet. Quick celebration, off we go, do the business on Sunday. That's when it counts.
OK, Chris, got only 2 more sleeps to go, and you're there with a ringside seat in Berlin. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you. There's lots more still to come between now and 5 o'clock. And last week, Nigel Farage was celebrating after having 5 MPs elected into Parliament. But today, they're starting a civil war after Ben Habib was dumped as deputy leader and replaced by Richard Tice. But first, it's your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you very much. Just after 4:30, the top story from the newsroom this hour. Human remains found in 2 suitcases near the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol are now believed to be those of 2 adult men. Police have issued a warning not to approach their main suspect involved in the case. The remains were discovered on Wednesday evening after police were called to reports of a man with a suitcase acting suspiciously on the bridge in Bristol. Officers say the suspect is thought to have travelled there from London earlier that day. A crime scene is now in place at a location in Shepherd's Bush in West London, and detectives from the Met are now leading the investigation. A man has been jailed for at least 15 years for what the judge has described as a sadistic, brutal and degrading plan to abduct, to rape and kill Holly Willoughby. 37-year-old Gavin Plum from Harlow was caught in an online chat by an undercover officer, but argued it was only a fantasy, not a real-life plan. Chelmsford Crown Court heard the kidnap plot has had a life-changing impact on the TV presenter. Thousands of prisoners in England and Wales are going to be released after serving just 40% of their sentence rather than half. Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood says without the immediate action to address overcrowding in jails, they'll run out of space within weeks. She's also promising to strictly monitor those who are freed early and to recruit more probation officers. The Home Secretary has called the deaths of 4 migrants in the English Channel truly awful, as charities call for safe and legal asylum routes. More than 60 people were rescued after their boat capsized just after 4 o'clock this morning off the coast of Boulogne. Latest Home Office figures show 419 people made that journey across the Channel from France to the UK in 6 boats on Tuesday. It suggests an average of around 40 people per boat, taking the provisional total for this year so far to just over 14,000. And England striker Ollie Watkins says he is ready to deliver again if he's given the chance in Sunday's Euro 2024 final against Spain. He came off the bench to score a dramatic 90th minute winner in Wednesday's semi-final against the Netherlands. And the King has asked Gareth Southgate's side to alleviate the blood pressure of the nation by avoiding any late drama in the final. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sam Francis, back with you for another update at 5 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Now, if you want to get in touch with us here at GB News, simply go to gbnews.com/your say, and I'll read out the best of your messages a little later in the show. So far, it's all Joe Biden and the 3 lions. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It is going to be a bit messy as we go into this weekend. There'll be some rain, some showers around and a glimmer of sunshine at times. Looking at the bigger picture, and there is high pressure just to the west of us, but also various features bringing some showery rain for some too. In the southwest, watch out for some heavy thundery downpours as we head towards this evening. Could cause some localised issues. Elsewhere, there'll be some clouds, some showery rain. Some thicker cloud brings some more persistent rain to eastern parts of England as that pushes in from the North Sea. Perhaps a little bit drier further west, still some spots of rain around. A lot of cloud though, so temperatures generally holding up in double figures, especially in the towns and cities. Through tomorrow morning then, a damp picture across eastern parts, further outbreaks of rain here. In the south though, any showers will have cleared overnight, so it's a mostly dry picture here in the southwest. Some sunshine earlier on, cloudier further east. Further outbreaks of showery rain as we head further northwards, always brightest the further west you go because of that high pressure that I mentioned earlier. Further east, it is always going to be that bit cloudier, that bit damper, and there'll be some blustery winds to watch out for too. Little change as we go through the rest of the day. We are going to see that rain across eastern parts pushing a bit further west, and so more places likely to turn a little bit damper, but further west still some bright or sunny spells and just a few showers to watch out for. Some of those showers could be heavy, possibly thundery, but not looking as intense as those that we've seen today. Temperatures are going to be a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling pretty cool towards those eastern coastal parts because of the cloud, the rain and those brisk winds. More rain pushing in from the North Sea as we go through later Saturday into Sunday. Elsewhere staying largely dry, some bright sunny spells, and in fact Sunday doesn't look too bad, just a few showers to watch out for before more rain arrives in time for the beginning of next week. Bye-bye.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, hello again, I'm Jules Buckley. Let's go to South Yorkshire firstly. The northbound M18 from junction 3 to 4, that's St Catherine's to the Westmore turn-off. Takes around 20 minutes to get through there at the moment. A 4-mile queue, a lane shut and obstruction blocking one of the lanes. A lane shut too in Bedfordshire on the southbound M1 around Luton. Junction 11 to 10 slow going. That one is due to a collision. There's one as well affecting the anti-clockwise M25. All the traffic at the moment at a stand from Romford Junction 29 down towards Brentwood 28, a lorry and a car involved. Queues for the M5 as well. Firstly, northbound to Burnham-on-Sea 22, a breakdown blocking a lane causing queues, and both sides of the M5 in Devon, traffic being held around Exeter Junction 29 to 28 in queuing, and that'll do there to a serious collision. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:38. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now it's time now for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £30,000. This time it's totally tax-free, which means you get the lot and you can do whatever you like with it. And here's all the details that you need for your chance to become our next big winner.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far and it could be yours. Phil was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox. I just looked at my account and thought, oh my God, yeah, it's true, it's gone into my account. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, one of the oldest cliches is that a week is a long time in politics, and that definitely seems to be the case with the Reform Party. 7 days ago, Nigel Farage was celebrating after having 5 MPs elected into Parliament for the first time. But today, they appear to be staring at something of a civil war after Ben Habib was dumped as deputy leader and replaced by Richard Tice. Well, I'm joined now by the political commentator, James Matthewson. James, always a pleasure to have you on the show. So all political parties fall out. Just seems that Reform are doing it rather quickly.
They are, aren't they? And of course, this was inevitable, I think, Martin, because you've got this power vacuum now, and you didn't have it before because they had no power. There was nothing to fight over other than party structure and the general political party itself. And of course, who wants a political party that doesn't have any seats? Well, now they do have seats, so there is actually something to scrap over. And I think it was inevitable. You got three rich lads, right? You got three very rich lads at the top of this party. You've got Richard Tice, you've got obviously Nigel Farage, the figurehead, and then you've got Ben Habib, who now is obviously in a bit of a huff, it seems, from his social media that he's been moved out of the way in favour of Richard Tice. So it's a power struggle, but I think it is important that we remember this isn't some kind of party of the people that we're seeing struggle for power, for representation. It's three very rich old men who are fighting for the power of a party that's just won a few seats.
That's rather uncharitable, James. 4 million votes didn't come out of thin air, and 4 million votes, by the way, happened in a lot of areas where the Labour Party used to dominate in the Red Wall. A big working class contingent. You know, they're not bothered about the wealth of people. I'm surprised you are. Sir Keir Starmer is a knight. Why should that matter? It's simply the best people for the job. But let's get back to this particular issue. Reshuffles happen all the time. Reshuffles happen in every party. This has happened. Now, Ben Habib is saying, he said on social media today, he believes that the party needs to be democratised. What do you think he means by that?
Yeah, he has. And to be fair to Ben Habib, I don't know, I've met Ben, I've been on debates with him against him, and I think he's a decent guy. He seems like a lovely guy. But he has said previously, before the election even took place, that he thought there needed to be, and he wanted to promise voters that he would fight for democratisation of the party. He obviously saw that there was some kind of problem there, or some kind of element, or some risk of him perhaps being shunted out of the way in favour of other people, because political parties like this, I mean, it's a private business, right? That's how it's been structured, that's how it's been set up. It doesn't have the mechanisms installed in them that, you know, for example, the Labour Party, being over 100 years old, has. You know, it has a very strong membership, it has very strong core rules and a rule book that governs it. These newer political parties don't have the benefit of that. So there is all sorts of things that can go on. And of course, politics is a game of egos. Let's not joke ourselves. 4 million people have put their trust in this political party. You're absolutely right. And they have the right to be represented by those people. However, the political party itself owes them transparency. It owes them a decent structure and some kind of democratic process. And I think at the moment what we're seeing is, you know, people with their egos, with skin in the game, wanting to make sure that they've got part of this movement that now has success behind it for the first time.
But as you said, James Matthewson, it's only 1 week in, and no doubt that kind of process will start to kick into action. The Reform Party, of course, will be holding the Labour Party's feet to the flames, particularly on immigration, and that is why a lot of people feel that Nigel Farage said they will be going for the Labour vote on that precise reason. Is that kind of is that part of the reason you think why the people on the left are attacking Reform over this, because they would rather they just go away?
Nah, I think they're after the Tories, and I think it's the Tories who are scared of them. I think they've had all the Labour votes they can have now. You know, they stood candidates in all those Labour seats, and even in seats like, the former Blythe Valley seat, which is now Asherton Blythe, places like that where they were expected to do well, they weren't even turning out many leaflets, and they had candidates that weren't even real candidates in places. They will have more people flock towards them now that they've proven they can win seats, of course, but I do think they stand on a precipice of either being a vehicle for people like Nigel Farage or Richard Tice and just their egos, or being a wider democratic structure, which obviously the other political parties already have in place. I don't think it's Labour who'll be worried about them. I think it's the Tories, and I think they're planning on cannibalising that right-wing vote and trying to be the right-wing party, the part of the centre-right and centre-right issues. I don't think them and Labour have much in common at all, or much to worry about on that front.
Well, a lot of those red wall votes went to the Conservatives in 2019. Who's to say they can't do that in 2029 if we can't stop the boats and if we can't make our borders secure? But look, thanks for your comments. Always a pleasure. James Matthewson, thanks for appearing on the show. Thank you. Now, Labour has only been in power for a week, and their plans to end the small boats crisis have already suffered a major blow. We'll have that next. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Question is...
should our museums stay free for everyone and anyone, or should we be charging our tourists?
So many of the artefacts are from around the world, stolen actually. I think it's almost to add insult to injury to ask people to pay to see the artefacts that were taken without their permission. One of the things that the museum set itself up for is a kind of World Heritage where you can see the stuff they took from your country free of charge. Because the British state's willing to do that, is one of the reasons why we hold on to many of the artefacts from around the world instead of giving them back.
I mean, that's a noble argument, Wayman, but none of the other countries in the world that also contain artefacts from all over the world indulge in that, do they? We still have to pay to see anything that's come from the UK that might be overseas?
No, but the absolute truth is that we've stolen a lot more over many more years than anybody else. Because we're we had a very, very big empire, and during that time, taking things from other countries without their permission.
And I think our wonderful country, the United Kingdom, is the cradle of modern civilization, not of the ancient world, but of the modern world. You know, for centuries, we've contributed things to the world, which has spread out around the world, and the influence that we've put upon countries around the globe has been massively significant. I think it's a privilege for people to be able to come to this country and track the history of our country through our museums. I can't understand why they've ever been free. The upkeep of museums runs into hundreds of millions of pounds a year. Somebody's got to maintain them and keep them good. Somebody's got to go around the world and collect the artifacts which are in our museums. And I've always had the adage in life, if something is free, it's probably not worth having.
The People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:48. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, earlier today, GB News covered the traditional July 12th parades in Northern Ireland. And the event marks, of course, the Battle of the Boyne, when Protestant King William of Orange defeated Catholic James II in 1690. Arlene Foster presented GB News' coverage and was joined by historical broadcaster Dr. Gavin Hughes.
Why do we celebrate the Battle of the Boyne? Why is it important, not just for us in Northern Ireland, but right across the UK?
Well, the important thing about the Boyne is that it is seen as being the enshrinement of civil and liberty for all. Religious liberty, civil liberty, and especially that's what we are celebrating today with the orange on display here.
Well, it was a spectacular sight as hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets at events in 18 venues across Northern Ireland. And here at GB News, we're extremely proud to have brought it to you. Now to news of a major setback to the government's hopes of ending the Channel migrant crisis. And Neil Basu had been backed to run the new Border Security Command, which is a central part of Sir Keir Starmer's plans to smash the people smuggling gangs. But Basu has turned down the offer for that job, and the news broke a few hours after 4 migrants died in the English Channel. More than 60 people were rescued after their boats capsized just after 4 a.m. off the coast of Boulogne. I'm joined now by Kevin Saunders, who's the former Chief Immigration Officer at UK Border Force. Kevin, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure. So Neil Basu was meant to be the guy. He was meant to be the man with a plan, a former National Command of the counter-terrorism head. He's turned the job down. Kevin, do you think that's because the job is simply too big? Is the ultimate poison chalice?
I don't know. What I do know, Martin, is that we had a chief constable in charge of Border Force a few years ago, and the way that the police tend to work is they like to be given a job and then left to get on with it. But what was happening was that the Home Secretary was all over the job and wanted almost daily briefings about what was going on. And the police don't like that. They like to be left alone to get on with what they're doing. So I think perhaps Mr. Basu might have been worried that there might have been too much political interference into what he was doing. But that's only a wild guess.
That's probably pretty accurate, Kevin Saunders. Here's a job that's probably the most politically scrutinised of all of them outside of ministerial jobs. It's measurable on a daily basis. Failure can be quantified every single day. And with that weight on your shoulders, is there any surprise this job, Kevin Saunders, could be quite hard to fill?
Yes, it will be. But I think that the Home Secretary ought to be looking for somebody from Border Force, perhaps a retired Director General, to actually head the organisation. Because you need to have a very solid grounding in immigration law, immigration rules, and how the immigration service part of Border Force work, particularly enforcement. So it really does, in my opinion, need to be a Border Force person that is in charge, and then have deputy commanders, if you like, from the police, the NCA, and other agencies that are going to work with them.
And Kevin, when you look into Neil Basu's previous comments, he said he was proud to be woke. He said diversity and inclusion are the most important things in modern policing, and he criticised Suella Braverman, her language when she was Home Secretary, as racist. Now, that might make him a great choice by Yvette Cooper, but hardly makes him the kind of guy that's going to crack this job into shape.
I think this job is probably too difficult, too big for a police officer. I mean, Mr. Basu did a very good job in counter-terrorism, but this job is not just counter-terrorism, it's a much wider field. And as I say, a former Border Force Director General would be a good fit because he knows what he or she would know what's going on. And then they can have our deputies, very senior police officers, who can do the twiddly bits, if you like, with the intelligence and the arresting. I mean, there are people about. There are people in the NCA who held very senior jobs in Border Force who could do the job. But I think it does need to be a civil servant rather than a policeman or a military person.
OK. With you there, Kevin Saunders, former Chief Immigration Officer at UK Border Force. Thank you for joining us on the show. As ever, pleasure to have your company. Now, there's breaking news this afternoon over the human remains that were found in 2 suitcases in Bristol. The suspect is thought to have travelled to Bristol from London earlier that day. We'll have more on that soon. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, here's your weather with Alex Birkin.
Warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's going to be a bit messy as we go into this weekend. There'll be some rain, some showers around and a glimmer of sunshine at times. Looking at the bigger picture, and there is high pressure just to the west of us, but also various features bringing some showery rain for some too. In the southwest, watch out for some heavy thundery downpours as we head towards this evening. Could cause some localised issues. Elsewhere, there'll be some clouds, some showery rain. Some thicker cloud brings some more persistent rain to eastern parts of England as that pushes in from the North Sea. Perhaps a little bit drier further west, still some spots of rain around. A lot of cloud though, so temperatures generally holding up in double figures, especially in the towns and cities. Through tomorrow morning then, a damp picture across eastern parts, further outbreaks of rain here. In the south though, any showers will have cleared overnight, so it's a mostly dry picture here in the southwest. Some sunshine earlier on, cloudier further east. Further outbreaks of showery rain as we head further northwards, always brightest the further west you go because of that high pressure that I mentioned earlier. Further east, it is always going to be that bit cloudier, that bit damper, and there'll be some blustery winds to watch out for too. Little change as we go through the rest of the day. We are going to see that rain across eastern parts pushing a bit further west, and so more places likely to turn a little bit damper, but further west still some bright or sunny spells and just a few showers to watch out for. Some of those showers could be heavy, possibly thundery, but not looking as intense as those that we've seen today. Temperatures are going to be a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling pretty cool towards those eastern coastal parts because of the cloud, the rain and those brisk winds. More rain pushing in from the North Sea as we go through later Saturday into Sunday. Elsewhere staying largely dry, some bright sunny spells, and in fact Sunday doesn't look too bad, just a few showers to watch out for before more rain arrives in time for the beginning of next week. Bye-bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Jules Buckley. Eastbound M62 queuing around Rainhill Stoops Junction 7. There's a breakdown blocking a lane on the exit slip. A collision southbound on the M6 now on the hard shoulder, still causing queues around Middlewich at 18. Northbound M5, the Sedgemoor services. A lane shut queuing back to Junction 24, Bridgewater South. There's a broken down lorry there. Both sides of the M5 in Devon closed. Junction 28 to 29 at Exeter. Investigation works underway following an earlier collision with this very slow going. Southbound M1 around Luton, 11 down to 10. A lane shut for a bump, that's slow. Part blocked at the moment, the clockwise M25. So Heathrow at 14 to the M4 at 15. There's a lane shut for a breakdown and very slow anti-clock too, just away from Romford at junction 29 toward Brentwood at junction 28.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Summer could be a scorcher with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said storm.
You made my argument for me. My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster, all across the UK. On today's show, there's been a big update on that gruesome discovery of human body parts in Bristol. Our Home Security Editor Mark White is at the potential scene of the crime, which would you believe is in London. Now, after calling Zelensky, Putin and Kamala Harris Trump, Joe Biden fluffed the biggest night of his life. Well, now Biden's allies, including Barack Obama, George Clooney and 20 Democrat congressmen, are calling for Joe to go. Now, there's only 2 more sleeps to go before England take on Spain at the Euro final in Berlin. After 58 long years of misery, can Gareth Southgate's 3 Lions finally bring football home? And there's great news about the Princess Royal. She's fulfilled her first public engagement since suffering concussion in a horse-related accident almost 3 weeks ago. Welcome back, Her Majesty. That's all coming in your next hour. Welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. Only 2 sleeps to go. Can the 3 Lions bring that trophy home? An astonishing press conference earlier from Ollie Watkins, the last-minute hero in the semi-finals. He said a friend of his said to him 2 years ago he would score a winning goal in the final of the European Championships. Can destiny be completed that way? He said it was preordained. He imagined it would happen, and he wasn't shocked when he scored. The belief seems sky high, but Spain are the favourites. They've been the best team since the very, very beginning. Is it coming home? Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say. But now it's your headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you very much, and good evening to you. It's just coming up to 3 minutes past 5, and the top story tonight is that we now know the human remains found in 2 suitcases near the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol are believed to be those of 2 adult men. Police say they believe the man left 2 suitcases on the bridge after travelling to Bristol from London. The Metropolitan Police have now taken over the hunt for the suspect who was spotted on CCTV on Wednesday night after taking a taxi to the bridge in Bristol. These here are live pictures from the scene in West London where it is believed that there is a crime scene in the area of Shepherd's Bush. You can see their activity outside flats in the area of West London. Forensic officers earlier seen preparing for their search of those flats in West London. Detectives urging anyone who sees the suspect or knows his whereabouts to call 999 immediately. The security guard has been sentenced to at least 15 years in jail for what were described as depraved and vile plans to kidnap, to rape and murder Holly Willoughby. Chelmsford Crown Court was told Gavin Plum's plot had catastrophic and life-changing impacts on the TV presenter. Detective Chief Inspector Greg Wood from Essex Police led the investigation.
Planned this attack on Miss Willoughby over a 2-year period, scoping her movements, seeking help from others and buying items that would incapacitate and inflict violence. He is not a fantasist. He's a calculating sexual predator who has spent his adult life seeking to inflict violence on women.
A 26-year-old man has now been arrested on suspicion of the murders of 3 women in Hertfordshire. 61-year-old Carol Hunt and her 2 daughters, 25-year-old Louise and 28-year-old Hannah, were attacked at their home in Bushey. Hertfordshire police say the main suspect has been treated for injuries in hospital since then, but was only arrested today. He remains in a serious condition. In other news, prisoners who've served 40% of their sentences rather than 50% will be released to help alleviate overcrowding in England and Wales jails. Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood has warned failing to act now risks the collapse of the criminal justice system. The move, though, doesn't apply to the most serious offenders. Former Justice Minister Sir Robert Buckland says Labour can't just blame the previous Conservative government.
The government just merely points the finger at its predecessor and doesn't come up with other ideas about how to reduce the population awaiting trial, the remand population, then I think it will have missed an opportunity. And I think it's important that viewers know that we should be looking very carefully to make sure that serious violent criminals should not be released. And anybody on this scheme shouldn't be a domestic abuser or a stalker or an offender of that nature, because we should be maintaining confidence and making sure the public aren't put at risk.
Turning to the US now, and President Joe Biden has vowed to fight on despite two major gaffes at the NATO summit and a growing number of Democrats calling on him to stand aside. Speaking at the Washington event last night, he mistakenly referred to the Ukrainian president as President Putin before correcting himself.
Ukraine will prevail in this war, and we'll stand with them every single step of the way. That's what the compact says, loudly and clearly. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin.
Well, speaking just a short while later, after that first mishap, he was taking questions from journalists and mixed up the names of Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Take a listen.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
But despite those two mistakes, Sir Keir Starmer has defended Joe Biden's leadership of the NATO summit in Washington. The Prime Minister, who earlier insisted Mr Biden was not senile and was on good form, faced questions about the president's mental ability just moments after those two gaffes from the US leader.
I was with him last night. We spent best part of an hour together, covering a lot of ground. We've been through 2 days of this council and come to a very good outcome. He's led through all of that, spoken in every session, pulled people together, and we got a good outcome, and I think he should be given credit for that.
Sir Keir Starmer there speaking earlier. Well, the Princess Royal has begun her first public engagement since suffering concussion in a horse-related incident. Princess Anne, who's 73, spent 5 nights in hospital after she was believed to have been struck by a horse while out walking on her estate earlier this month. It's understood the visit to Hartbury College in Gloucestershire is the first step in her phased return to public duties as she recovers. And finally, England striker Ollie Watkins says he's ready to deliver again if he's given the chance in Sunday's Euro 2024 final against Spain. He came off the bench to score a dramatic 90th minute winner in Wednesday's semi-final against the Netherlands. And the King has asked Gareth Southgate's side to, well, alleviate the blood pressure of the nation by avoiding any late drama in Sunday's final. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sam Francis. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Now we start with an update on the manhunt following the discovery of human remains in 2 suitcases in Bristol. And GB News' Home and Security editor Mark White joins us from West London, where the crime was believed to have taken place. Mark, bring us up to speed.
Yeah, major update here. We are now at the scene of a crime scene, I should say, here in Lime Grove in Shepherd's Bush in West London. This whole operation now and this investigation is being managed by the Metropolitan Police. It's believed that the prime suspect who dropped off those 2 suitcases on the Clifton Suspension Bridge late on Wednesday night had travelled from here in London, in West London, out to Bristol earlier in the evening on Wednesday to drop what we now know are the remains of 2 adult males, according to the forensic examinations that have been carried out so far. Just in the last few minutes here in Shepherd's Bush, we saw a team of forensic teams suiting up, just heading towards the building to the right of where I'm standing at the moment. What we understand is that a taxi has been seized, that the taxi driver is being investigated and is being questioned by the Metropolitan Police at this stage. What we don't have in terms of any sort of update on the ongoing manhunt for that prime suspect, the man caught on CCTV on Clifton Suspension Bridge, is whether they have the person they believe to be their prime suspect in custody. No indication that that is the case at the moment. The indication that we're getting is that a taxi driver, what relation that was to the individual with the suitcases, we don't know at this stage, but a very significant development, as I say now. 2 active crime scenes, Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol, where those 2 suitcases were dropped off on that bridge by that man on the CCTV, relatively young man, black man with a beard and an Adidas baseball cap, dropped them off. He was then confronted effectively by bridge security staff who called the police as well, but he disappeared about 10 minutes or so after the police arrived. So you've got, of course, the active crime scene out there in Bristol, and now you have an active crime scene back here in Shepherd's Bush, where it's believed that those suitcases containing the human remains of 2 adult males began their journey out to Bristol.
Well, thank you for that update there. Mark White, live from West London. Thank you. Now, with all these hideous crimes taking place, of course, we need room in our prisons to lock these people up. But the new Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says our prisons are on the brink of collapse, and announcing the emergency measures today, including the early release of thousands of so-called low-risk criminals to reduce overcrowding in Britain's prisons. Well, joining me now is Nick Hardwick, who's the former Chief Inspector of Prisons. Mr. Hardwick, welcome to the show. Delighted to have your expertise. So, the new Justice Secretary painting a picture today, concerning picture, barely 700 spaces left, she claims, 99% capacity, and a picture of van loads of dangerous people circling around the country with nowhere to go. With all that in mind, do you think that she's made the right decision on this?
Yeah, I think she's made the only decision possible. This is not just a problem for the prisons themselves, but it's a problem for the whole criminal justice system. It's for the police, who, if they arrest people, there's nowhere to put them. For the courts, for victims of very serious crimes, and now having to wait for the trial with the alleged offender on bail or on remand for years, possibly. So I think it's right to say the system is in crisis. And in the short term, there weren't really any alternatives to this. It's important to stress this is for the lower risk offenders. That doesn't mean these are people who haven't done harmful things. Of course they have. But the sorts of people we've been hearing about elsewhere in your programme, it won't apply to them.
Now, Nick, less than 4 years can involve, quite heavy sentences for drug dealing. And the point is, if they're released early into communities and they have issues, they have habits, there can be repeat offenders, then the strain, Nick Hardwick, is placed on the probation service.
Exactly.
And that's already on its knees. Who will be monitoring these people who've been released early?
There's a real problem. I agree completely with that. There's a real problem because, where are these people going to live if they are released? Suddenly you have a great load of people released very quickly. So that's one of the issues. Let's be realistic. What this means is, say if somebody had, say, a 4-year sentence, previously they would have been automatically released at 2 years. Now they'll be automatically released at around 20 months. Right? So for these people, where there is a risk that they'll reoffend, there would have been no risk that they would reoffend anyhow. And if by doing this, we give a bit more space to prisons so they can address these people's behaviour and try and reduce the risk that they'll reoffend, then actually it might end up making us all safer rather than increasing the risk.
What do you say to people who say this is reckless and it doesn't send out much of a deterrent? If you know that 40% of your sentence will all you'll serve, for example, for dealing a kilogram of cocaine, then surely they'll crack on and do it.
I understand people's concerns, but I don't think saying to someone who might be out to steal a chunk of cocaine, look, if you do that, you would have got a sentence, say, of 2 years, and now you'll only get a sentence of 20 months. I don't think that reduces the deterrent effect very effectively. What might be a deterrent is the fact that they'll be caught, they'll be processed quickly, they'll have a quick trial, and then they'll go to prison. I think that whole thing is a deterrent. But if you say, well, look, maybe, you know, if you do get caught, there'll be a 2-year wait before your trial, then maybe you'll be found guilty. I don't think the sorts of people who commit these offences are put off by that.
And Nick Holbrook, you bring highlights often to the kind of precarious nature of the British prison system. They're old-fashioned, crumbling at the seams oftentimes. Yeah. What about the controversial notion, the expensive notion of building new prisons?
Well, look, we've got choices to make, I think, as a country. You know, the government's predicting, previous government was predicting that the prison population would rise by about 20,000, and they were going to spend £4 billion building new prisons. And that's not because we're sending more people to prison, it's because we're sending them to prison for a bit longer than we used to. So as a country, we've got to decide what our priorities are. And, you know, I think some of that money would be better spent trying to divert people from the system, doing the stuff that we know with, you know, young people that stops them getting involved in crime. But no one would dispute there are a lot of people who've committed very serious offences or very harmful offences, and they need to be put away in prison and hopefully work done with them to reduce the risk that they'll reoffend. That second bit, work to reduce the risk that they'll reoffend, isn't happening now, and I hope creating a bit of space might enable us to do it better in future.
And Nick Holbrook, Sir Robert Buckland, the former Justice Secretary, he said that Labour are sending out mixed messages about punishment. Do you think this feels like a new Justice Secretary who's going soft on crime?
No, I don't think it feels... I do think that this will be a worrying announcement for people. I mean, I accept that. I think it's important, you know, that as you're doing, you explain what's actually proposed properly. And I don't think the new Justice Secretary is a soft touch, but I think she's been left with a very difficult problem to solve. And I think, to be honest, I think Robert Buckland would agree with that. And I would agree with him. We've got to make quite sure that the people who commit the most serious offences, particularly offences against women, that they aren't included in this scheme. So I would agree with a lot of what he was saying.
Nick Holbrook, the former Chief Inspector of Prisons, thank you so much for joining us, giving us your expert insight into this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Now we start with the worrying state of President Joe Biden. At a time when he's under growing pressure to pull out of the presidential race in the States, he made arguably his worst ever mistake last night. Unforgivably, he called Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky President Putin. Check this out.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Seb Gorka, who's a former White House advisor to President Donald Trump. Welcome to the show, Seb. Always a pleasure to have your company. The entire room gasped in disbelief. We're getting used to these kind of gasps, but this was the next level. The simple question is this, Seb Gorka. How long can the charade carry on?
Well, thanks for having me. Apologies for the togs. You guys caught me on the first day of my vacation, but I said for GB News, we're going to do it. How long? 2 questions, 2 factors. Jill Biden, because she's the one that's clearly running things in the White House, the First Lady. She desperately wants to get another 4 years at the top of the food chain. And she really can decide whether or not Joe steps down, or it's the big donors. We've had some donors say they're pulling their funds from the campaign, but as long as they have a war chest, a sizable war chest that can only be spent by Biden or Kamala Harris on the campaign because they are the official nominees, then Joe's going to keep on doing what he's doing, no matter how many gaffes, no matter that yesterday he called his Vice President Kamala Harris, Vice President Trump. It's up to Jill, and it's up to the big donors.
That's an astonishing amount of power for a First Lady to have when you consider 20 Democrat congressmen and rising, old allies, George Clooney, Barack Obama, sharpening the knives. What's the next step? I mean, the media are pulling out, the polling is tanking. Are they so tied to their man? They're so determined to keep Donald Trump out of power that they're going to keep backing a guy who clearly appears to be crumbling before our eyes, Seb Gorka?
Well, there's this weird kind of half-pregnant situation right now when it's the second and third-tier individuals who are being pushed out, senators you've never heard of, congressmen you've never heard of to say, Joe, you can't run. It has to be, Barack Obama himself not telling George Clooney to write an op-ed in the New York Times. That's when it gets serious. But on top of that, we are less than 4 months away from the election. What mug is going to say, okay, I'll be the candidate. I'm going to take the rap for the last 3.5 years of disastrous Biden policies, the war in Ukraine, the war in the Middle East, at least 20 million illegals led across the southern border. Because if somebody like the governor of California or somebody else comes in and said, okay, let me save the day, and they crash and burn in 4 months' time, they cannot run again in 2028 because they will be tarnished goods. So really, it is a trap of their own devising, and I'm just going to sit back, buy shares in popcorn, and watch.
And Seb Gorka, isn't that a point? Donald Trump himself last night tweeted out the video of the Vice President Trump gaffe and said, great job, Joe. Your former boss wants Joe Biden to stay on the ticket because he's the guy that they know they can surely beat.
Yeah, my buddy, Colonel Kurt Schlichter, commented to me during the debate, and with his permission, I tweeted this out. Best analysis of the night. It was bad.
Gareth Southgate's 3 Lions finally bring football home. That's the dream. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, time for the best part of the show, our Greatest Britain, where we share amazing people who do amazing things. And this week, that is Dr. Leo Cheng and the Reverend Hilary Cheng.
Well, Dr. Chen
regularly serves as a volunteer surgeon aboard the Mercy ships in West Africa and has recently served his 17th mission aboard the ships. He volunteers with his wife, Reverend Hilary Cheng, a Methodist minister in the UK.
Thank you for joining us, and what a privilege. So just briefly explain, what are Mercy ships?
Well, Mercy ship provide world-class surgery on the ship, and the ship then sail to these poorest of the poor country because there's no infrastructure to get road or rail there. And we offer free surgery and also education, training of medical staff, and partner with the local or the host nation to build up their surgical and anaesthetic services.
So how long have you been travelling West Africa? You go on all these different ships, different ports, and you treat the needy and the vulnerable. How long have you both been doing this?
20 years.
20 years?
Just over 20 years.
And you take the time to do this out of your own holiday from work. Why do you do it?
Well, because I'm indebted to the education in this country with all the qualification I get. And NHS is great. I love the NHS because without NHS, we see cases that we see in the low-income country. And I want to make use of my hand to help those people who have no way of helping themselves. Because the tumours, the deformities, not just a physical ailment, but it's being ostracised and die early, commit suicide because they've been ostracised by their family.
When you're on the ship, you are seeing the very worst that the country can offer. I find it a great privilege to work alongside these people.
GB News, the People's Channel. I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:26. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Later in the show, I'll bring you some great news about the Princess Royal. But before that, let's get our teeth into one of the biggest nights in English football history, certainly in my lifetime. There's just 2 sleeps to go until England take on Spain in the final of the Euros 2024. Now, you don't need me to remind you that it's 58 tortuous years since we won a major trophy, the World Cup, of course, in '66. Now, Ollie Watkins got the winning goal in this semi-final against the Netherlands, and he says he had full belief when he came on that he was going to score.
It's been an unbelievable feeling, to be honest. One that I was taken back by the goal, but also I wasn't shocked that I did that, really, because I have full belief in myself. I knew when I was going onto the pitch that I was going to score. You know, I manifested it. I had worked very hard to get to that point. So it's been an amazing feeling, but I'm not shocked.
Well, Ollie Watkins has full belief, and let's cross to Berlin now. Speak to another man with full belief, and that's the sports broadcaster Chris Scudder. Chris, welcome back to the show. You've been saying all along England are peaking at the right time. Keep the faith. I admit I had my downbeat side, but Chris, it just feels like the cogs are all dropping into place at the right time for England.
Yeah, interesting to hear Ollie Watkins there. Very sort of clinical, that, wasn't it? That full belief in what they're doing. It's a new breed of professional footballer, really. How many times over the years we've seen footballers waste their careers? You know, Gaza, fantastic player from when football was coming home in 1996, almost 30 years ago, wasted his career. But Ollie Watkins and Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden, you just get the impression that they live for what they do, and winning is everything. And that is where we are right now. It's all about preparation as well. You know, England has changed the way we've approached tournaments. You know, penalty shootouts used to be a lottery, or hope for the best, hit it in the corner and hope it goes in and close your eyes and hope. But now it's all about, the psychology and the preparation, no stone left unturned. And that's why they're starting to win games against the odds. Don't forget, the last 3 games, they've been behind in each one. Previous Englands would have lost those games. They've won a penalty shootout as well, 2 last-minute goals, and all those little things are adding together now. Yes, Spain are a great team, and they've beaten Croatia, and they've beaten Italy, and they've beaten Germany in Germany, and they've beaten France in the semi-final as well. But, you know, England are going to give them a real stern test. I mean, I would say it is probably, you know, Spain are favourites because of the way they've played. But England have got a lot of nous now, and there's a real, that sense of something in the air, which has been apparent the last couple of weeks, in my opinion. And if the players believe it, that's a very good sign.
You know, Chris Scudder, I was really struck by Ollie Watkins, about how measured he was, how humble he was, somebody with belief in the squad. He's happy playing 1 minute. He's happy playing 90 minutes. And he just had this sense, if that was an insight into the mentality of the camp today, Chris Scudder, that I'm feeling really, really positive about the fact that they seem together, they feel gelled, and they seem up for it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about golden generations, haven't we? And this is without a doubt a second one, and probably maybe not as good as the last one. You think about the team, England should have won the Euros 2004, 20 years ago. Do you remember the one with Wayne Rooney when he had his metatarsal? And he was completely unstoppable in that tournament, but got injured. England didn't win it, lost on penalties again to Portugal. But that team was Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard, Rio, Ferdinand, John Terry. Fantastic team, David Beckham. But they didn't have that. They hadn't prepared mentally. It was almost as if they sort of went into it thinking, oh, we'll be all right. And there was also the cliques, you know, the cliques, but the players admitted it, between clubs. Those have gone. That's the one thing that Gareth Southgate, everyone agrees on. He's got rid of that, the differences and the egos, if you like. They are very much a team. They are together. Haven't played like a team, but what they have done as a team is they believe there's kind of that. It's a harmony there which has been missing before. So even if they do go behind and they have those the last 3 games, you think they're going to come back. And I think Spain will look at it, and also the strength of England's bench, because you know Watkins came off the bench, so did Cole Palmer, and that's like an extra man for England, you know, almost like a 12th man, because they know if things aren't going well, they can turn it around. They've got, you know, the best. They've got on paper, they've got the best squad in this tournament.
You know, Chris Scudder, this will be the last time we speak before that final. You've been superb throughout this. Thank you for your updates, and also thank you for keeping me positive. As you know, I was a bit of a wet weekend about this, but you've been magnificent, Chris Scudder. Thank you very much, and enjoy that final.
Faith, Martin. They're going to do it. Of course they are.
No, mate, you, seriously, you kept the faith and I didn't. Hats off to you. Well done, Chris Scudder. Enjoy that match. Thank you. There's lots more still to come between now and 6 o'clock, and we'll find out why hotels in Paris are warning of an Olympic disaster just a fortnight before the big games begin. But first, it's your headlines with Sam Francis.
5:32, the top stories from the newsroom tonight. The Metropolitan Police has now taken over the investigation into human remains that were found in 2 suitcases near the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol. These are the live pictures coming to us from West London, where there is now an increased police presence outside a block of flats in the area of Shepherd's Bush. Officers there say they believe the suspect is thought to have travelled from London to Bristol, where he left those suitcases containing the human remains. And we now know the bodies are said to be of 2 adult men. Police have also issued a warning not to approach the suspect involved in the case, with detectives urging anyone who sees him or may know his whereabouts to call 999 immediately. A security guard has been jailed for life with a minimum term of more than 15 years for plotting to kidnap, to rape and to murder the TV presenter Holly Willoughby. The judge said Gavin Plum had a history of attacking women and hatched his sadistic, brutal and degrading plan over a number of years. The Justice Secretary says she's had to step in to tackle the prison overcrowding crisis, or she claims the whole criminal justice system will collapse. Most inmates will now be released after serving 40% of their sentences in England and Wales, down from the current 50% jail time. Shabana Mahmood's also promising to strictly monitor those who are freed early and to recruit more probation officers. In other news, the Home Secretary has called the deaths of 4 migrants in the English Channel truly awful, as charities are calling for more safe and legal asylum routes. More than 60 people were rescued after their boat capsized just after 4 o'clock in the morning off the coast of Boulogne. Latest Home Office figures show 419 people made the journey across the Channel from France to the UK in 6 boats on Tuesday. It suggests an average of around 70 people per boat, and that takes the provisional total for 2024 to now just over 14,000. And as we were hearing just before the news headlines, England striker Ollie Watkins says he's ready to deliver again if he's given the chance in Sunday's Euro 2024 final against Spain. He came off the bench to score a dramatic 90th minute winner in Wednesday's semi-final against the Netherlands. And now the King has also spoken to Gareth Southgate's side, asking them to alleviate the blood pressure of the nation by avoiding any late drama in the final on Sunday. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sam Francis, back with you for another update at 6 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Superb. Now, if you want to get in touch with us at GB News, simply go to gbnews.com/your say, and I'll read out the best of your messages before the end of the show. So far, it's all Biden and the Three Lions. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It is going to be a bit messy as we go into this weekend. There'll be some rain, some showers around, and a glimmer of sunshine at times. Looking at the bigger picture, and there is high pressure just to the west of us, but also various features bringing some showery rain for some too. In the southwest, watch out for some heavy thundery downpours as we head towards this evening. Could cause some localised issues. Elsewhere, there'll be some clouds, some showery rain. Some thicker cloud brings some more persistent rain to eastern parts of England as that pushes in from the North Sea. Perhaps a little bit drier further west, still some spots of rain around. A lot of cloud though, so temperatures generally holding up in double figures, especially in the towns and cities. Through tomorrow morning then, a damp picture across eastern parts, further outbreaks of rain here. In the south though, any showers will have cleared overnight, so it's a mostly dry picture here in the southwest. Some sunshine earlier on, cloudier further east. Further outbreaks of showery rain as we head further northwards, always brightest the further west you go because of that high pressure that I mentioned earlier. Further east, it is always going to be that bit cloudier, that bit damper, and there'll be some blustery winds to watch out for too. Little change as we go through the rest of the day. We are going to see that rain across eastern parts pushing a bit further west, and so more places likely to turn a little bit damper, but further west still some bright or sunny spells and just a few showers to watch out for. Some of those showers could be heavy, possibly thundery, but not looking as intense as those that we've seen today. Temperatures are going to be a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling pretty cool towards those eastern coastal parts because of the cloud, the rain and those brisk winds. More rain pushing in from the North Sea as we go through later Saturday into Sunday. Elsewhere staying largely dry, some bright sunny spells, and in fact Sunday doesn't look too bad, just a few showers to watch out for before more rain arrives in time for the beginning of next week. Bye-bye.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Long delays north of Cambridge continue on the M11. The motorway is blocked northbound at junction 14 where it meets the A14 at the scene of an accident. In North London at Camden, Kentish Town Road, it remains shut in the one-way system near Camden Town Station for emergency gas repairs. East London, the A11 at Stratford closed near the bus station following a crash. And the Surrey stretch of the M25, just be warned, it's going to be closing from 9 o'clock tonight between the A3 and Chertsey for the weekend roadworks. The M3 in Hampshire is down to a single lane southbound at junction 11 near Winchester following an accident. And the M5 in Devon remains closed each way, junction 28 to 29 north of Exeter. Accident investigation works underway, and it's really slow as well further up in Somerset after a lorry broke down near Bridgewater. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 5:38. It's the final furlong. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, empty seats could be a common sight at the Paris Olympics. As France make their final preparations for the world's biggest sporting festival, reports suggest tourists are staying away because of high security, fear of unrest and spiralling prices. Well, join me now from Paris is the journalist Peter Allen, great friend of the show. Peter, welcome to GB News. Once again, there seems to be bad news for France, your side of the channel, tapped off by Frank Delvaux, who's the head of the Paris region hoteliers, saying the outlook is disastrous. Paris is emptying. What on earth's going on?
Well, I'm based in central Paris, Martin, and it is a bit grim at the moment, I have to say. The whole place is like a building site still. There's scaffolding everywhere. Lots of roads are shut. It's a strange feeling. It's almost like you're building up to a party that you've been organising for months, and suddenly all your neighbours are mysteriously disappearing to the countryside. People who said they were going to be in town for the party aren't here. And it's all very, very strange. But of course, those kind of parties often turn out to be the best ones. And then suddenly everybody turns up at the last minute. That might be the case because hotel room prices are being slashed. Airbnb prices are being slashed. All these people who a year ago thought they were going to become massively rich on these Olympics, they've all got egg on their faces now. What do they have to do? They have to put their prices down, which can only benefit people. I think the tickets are selling better than people thought. I think during London 2012, around this time, about a month before the game, a lot of people thought, oh, look, there's loads of tickets left. But at the last moment, you couldn't get a ticket for all the big events, the athletics and the like. There's a good chance that might happen as well. So it's mixed feelings, I think, Martin. Absolutely right that at this moment in time, it's all a bit grim and a bit worrying, and we don't know what's going to happen. But there's still a chance everything will come good at the last moment.
And Peter, how much of a backdrop are the recent elections? And we've seen the unrest. I mean, you said to me before on the show, it's very, very common to see people doing these kind of things in Paris. And of course, recently, back in April, the Islamic State hove back into view. They threatened to target the Paris Saint-Germain Champions League quarter-final in Paris. Are these kind of things, the more sinister political things, are they preying on people's minds at the moment in France?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that at all. July and August are the traditional holiday months in France, and everybody's been meant to be extremely relaxed and to look forward to the great sporting events, for example. But this election, it came from nowhere. Emmanuel Macron announced it was going to happen. It's been one of the most divisive elections in recent French history. Far right, far left, and everything in between involved, and everybody, even those on the same parties, all at each other's throats and hating each other. We've got the trade unions threatening to have huge strikes during the Olympics. And, of course, there's always the great security threats, which come up every time, and people are thinking about them more and more when you have a big event like this. Of course, security is absolutely massive now. And normally when there have been outrages, terrible things happening in France in recent years, they've come out of the blue. You wouldn't have seen them coming. Whereas now, because everybody is so ready for them, and there are just so many police around, you see legions of paramilitary police everywhere, armoured cars on street corners, army patrols everywhere in full battle fatigues with their weapons drawn. So, yeah, it's a very, very strange feeling. But in the end, one would hope that France can push through it all. It's the first time there's been Olympics here for 100 years. It's a huge way to show off the country to the world. And there's still hope that it will all work out all right. But of course, we'll have a much better idea in a few weeks' time, Martin.
Well, fingers crossed you have a decent sporting event. Heaven knows you need it, Peter Allen, after getting tonked out of the Euros. Once again, not for the first time, the English will give you a wave from Berlin. Thank you very much, Peter Allen, for joining me on the show. Now it's time now for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an astonishing £30,000, and it's totally tax-free, which means you'll get the lot to do whatever you like with. And here's all the details that you need for your chance to become our next big winner.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Get stuck in. Now, coming up, we'll bring you some fantastic news about Princess Anne, who made a return to royal duties earlier today. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, it wasn't just us who celebrated the big football match on Saturday. Prince William was in the crowd in Dusseldorf and couldn't help but show his relief when England scored.
And over the weekend, it was also announced that the Prince of Wales is set to star in a new two-part documentary on ITV covering his mission to try and eradicate homelessness.
Well, let's talk about this and much, much more with Angela Levin, royal biographer, who joins us in the studio. I'm glad to hear that this documentary's been made, Angela, because I worried that he made this big announcement about homelessness, and I thought, goodness me, here is somebody who could maybe do something about this. And then it's all seemed to have gone quiet.
He's been very busy with it, actually. He's gone all over the country to see different areas and how they have been, and to try and change people's attitude to homelessness, that they're people who need help and want to get back into a normal life. I think it was 2009, he slept out in the street to see for himself what it was like. And he also helps people who are selling the magazines, the big issue. So I think he was actually just covering the basic about what it was like for him and how he can now help other people. He and Catherine are putting £3 million straight away into that, and it's going to
Where
be...
Where does that money come from?
Their own foundation, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not taking it from our tax or anybody else's. He wants to do this so badly because of his mother. You know, she took them to see people who were homeless, and even if he can't do everyone, he can help people be kind and understanding.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 5:47, the final furlong. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, there's some fantastic news about Princess Anne today. She made a surprise but very welcome return to royal duties when she visited Hartpury University and Hartpury College in Gloucestershire. It was her first engagement since she was hospitalised in a horse-related incident last month. And what a way to end the week by speaking to the former BBC royal correspondent, Michael Cole. Michael, welcome to the show. A magnificent crescendo to my week presenting. We've got you, and you bring us good tidings about the Princess returning to duties.
Good afternoon, Martin. Yes, what excellent news. The Princess Royal back doing what she does best, wearing a very jaunty fedora, as we saw there, and a tweed jacket with Tyrolean influence to it. Although I'm not a fashion expert, I won't go any further. The only souvenir she seems to have from the unfortunate misadventure with the horse was a slight facial bruise. I'm not sure we can see it at that angle, but that was the only thing she was sporting today. But she was there, and it was an event for riding for the disabled. Now, she's been involved with that since 1972, which is 52 years, and she's been president for some decades. I remember when it started, it was one of the leading lights in it was her captain in the British Olympic equestrian team, Major Derek Althusen, and she was involved in that with the very beginning. And here we see her at this university, not too far from her home in Gloucestershire. So it's a gentle beginning, back doing her role. And of course, she is famously the most hardworking member of the royal family, 168 engagements last year, and I'm quite sure she'll be back in the swing of it. Of course, we still do not know the details of what actually happened when she met this horse and what happened, and she apparently has no memory of it. So maybe it will remain a mystery between her and the horse.
And Michael Cole, the first stroll into the paddock, as it were, and her attitude, her demeanour, her entire life. She's the hardest working royal. How long do you think it'll be before she's back to full canter?
Well, I think it may take a bit of time, you know. Concussion is never a trivial thing, and there can be side effects for that for some time to come. You know, you get a big bang on your skull and your brain gets knocked. The effects can be long-lasting, but we can only hope for the best. I'm sure she was well advised, but it was by no means a trivial encounter, whatever it was that happened. And it seems that she was alone at the time and she can't remember. So it will probably, as I say, remain a mystery. But she's good. She understands the meaning of duty. She always has. She's been there. She has her interests, but they are quite wide interests. And I went around the world with her when she was working for Save the Children Fund. And she was an immensely effective person. She, said on one occasion, "I'm not the perfect princess. I'm not the storybook princess. And maybe you're disappointed." Well, I don't think anybody can say we're disappointed in her, because she's been true to her own lights. And she's somebody we can respect. And I think with time, she will be regarded even more highly than she is today, because she does the job, she does it well, and everybody is always pleased to see her.
Well, Michael Cole, a beautiful sentiment, a great way to end the week, and everyone's always happy to see you on GB News. You have a cracker. Michael Cole, always an absolute delight to have you on the show. Now then, let's go through your says before the end of the show. Hundreds of them coming in. Two topics really lit you up today: Joe Biden and the football. Let's start with Joe Biden. Davey says this: "I really hope Sleepy Joe stays where he is, because that will give Trump the White House." Steve adds this: "Seriously, what kind of world are we living in? If anybody seriously thinks that Joe Biden is fit to be president of the United States, the evidence is before our eyes. When will even his own supporters wake up?" And Bill adds this: "Michelle Obama, your country needs you." Bill, a lot of people have been talking about the Obamas. Will they play a role in this? But at the moment, it seems they're teaming up against him. Barack Obama is alleged to have great concerns. Now let's finish the show with a bit of football. You may have noticed there's a little game going on Sunday evening in Berlin. Gordon says this: "Spain are a fantastic team from front to back, but they have one massive problem. They are not as good as England. Come on, England." A lot of people will echo that sentiment, Gordon. John adds this: "It's coming home, it's coming home. I hope so on Sunday at least. It'd be great to have some good news at last. Anthony adds this: I love football, Martin, but even I'm fed up of hearing about it. Anthony, we've been talking about 1966 for 58 years, and it hasn't even kicked off yet, mate. We're allowed, surely, to have a little bit of self-indulgence ahead of a mouth-watering prospect. Young Ollie Watkins gave a press conference earlier I thought was sensational. He said it felt preordained he was going to take part. He said he'd imagined this game. He'd manifested him scoring a goal. He even said a friend told him 2 years ago he would score the winning goal in the European Championships final. Could that be a stunning prophecy looking ahead? It seems like the team has got the belief. It seems like they're up for it. It seems finally, could it finally be coming home? Well, that's only 2 sleeps away. So whatever you do, enjoy that match. I'll see you back on Monday. Next up is Jubes & Co. And tonight it's presented this evening by Dawn Neeson. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the football. Stay positive. Thanks for your company. Always a delight. But now's your weather with Alex Burko. Have a smashing weekend.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It is going to be a bit messy as we go into this weekend. There'll be some rain, some showers around, and a glimmer of sunshine at times. Looking at the bigger picture, and there is high pressure just to the west of us, but also various features bringing some showery rain for some too. In the southwest, watch out for some heavy thundery downpours as we head towards this evening. Could cause some localised issues. Elsewhere, there'll be some clouds, some showery rain, some thicker cloud bringing some more persistent rain to eastern parts of England as that pushes in from the North Sea. Perhaps a little bit drier further west, still some spots of rain around. A lot of cloud though, so temperatures generally holding up in double figures, especially in the towns and cities. Through tomorrow morning then, a damp picture across eastern parts, further outbreaks of rain here. In the south though, any showers will have cleared overnight, so it's a mostly dry picture here in the southwest. Some sunshine earlier on, cloudier further east. Further outbreaks of showery rain as we head further northwards. Always brightest the further west you go because of that high pressure that I mentioned earlier. Further east, it is always going to be